Chapter 103. At the sight of the Special Logistics Department of the 87th Legion, Xia Pingan felt a chill in his heart. In the dim red vision, there was only the wreckage of a small propeller plane left in the small airport outside the Special Logistics Department. Previously, many small private planes and helicopters were parked here. Now, those planes were all gone, which indicated that the Special Logistics Department didn't evacuate in a hurry. Most of the planes had already left. As for the wreckage of the small propeller plane, it indicated that some demonic fire spiders had already been here and experienced a battle. A nearby military fuel depot had also been burned black, leaving only debris on the ground. The few houses that were originally used as hangars had also collapsed. The barbed wire fence outside the small airport had been destroyed. The few buildings that seemed to be in good condition were modeled outside, and traces of gunshot holes could be seen in many places. There were 2 medium-sized pits on the runway. The wreckage of 2 dead demonic rats could be seen around them. In such a case, would there still be Shenli Dan here? Xia Pingan was not sure. However, the 4-story building where the warehouse of the Special Logistics Department was located looked relatively intact. Xia Pingan passed through the fence and ran towards the 4-story building. There was a gun warehouse downstairs. The thick iron gate of the warehouse was still locked. It hadn't been completely destroyed. In the past, the place to receive Shenli Dan was an office-cum-warehouse with a safe on the 2nd floor of this building. The moment he entered the building, Xia Pingan had heard some movements from the 2nd floor. He glanced at the 2nd floor with his remote vision and was startled at once, because he saw 2 demonic rats pacing back and forth on the 2nd floor. A demon rat was gnawing the door of a room on the 2nd floor. Being scratched and gnawed by the demon rat, the wooden door was soon broken, revealing a big hole. Another demon rat was walking around the aisle on the 2nd floor with bloody eyes. Xia Pingan glanced at the office storeroom where he used to receive the divine power pill. The steel protective door of the storeroom was still tightly shut. He didn't know if the people here had forgotten about it before retreating, but the key to the steel protective door was still inserted into the door lock. Zhang Tai then glanced around with his remote vision. There were no demonic rats or demonic fire spiders within 500 m. Xia Pingan made up his mind at once. After glancing around the 1st floor, he immediately came to the front of a fire cabinet. He broke the glass of the fire cabinet and took out 2 fire axes from the cabinet. Xia Pingan didn't want to cover his voice. The moment he broke the fire cabinet, he heard a clang in the dark. The sound was very clear in the pitch-dark and silent building. The 2 demonic rats had heard it at once. The 2 demonic rats stopped their movements at once and rushed downstairs without any hesitation. Xia Pingan took the 2 fire axes and stood behind the wall beside the staircase, waiting for the 2 demonic rats to rush downstairs. Only after a few seconds, a demon rat had rushed downwards. Xia Pingan raised his axe and chopped down the moment the demon rat exposed its head. This chop was so heavy that it directly split the demon rat's head into 2 halves from the middle, causing its head to be completely split into 2 halves. The demonic rat's brain and blood splashed all over the ground. Without uttering a sound, it had been killed by Xia Pingan's axe. The other demonic rat charged at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan swung the fire axe in his other hand and heavily hit the 2nd demonic rat's head with the thick side of the axe. With a sound of crack, the demonic rat's head and mouth were directly smashed by the axe. Many of its bones were broken, while a lot of its teeth flew out. The 2nd demonic rat, which was as huge as a lion, was sent flying 5 to 6 m away by Xia Pingan's axe. Before the demonic rat turned over and stood up, Xia Pingan had rushed towards it and chopped the demonic rat's neck with his fire axe. Almost half of the demonic rat's head and neck was chopped off. The demonic rat immediately fell down. With another swing of the axe, the head of the devil rat was directly chopped off by Xia Pingan and rolled on the ground. In just 2 seconds the battle was over. With another chop, The demonic rat's head was chopped open and there was no realm pearl inside. Xia Pingan threw away the fire axe in his hand and quickly went upstairs. When he arrived in front of the storeroom, he twisted the key twice and pulled the door handle before entering the storeroom. There were 2 file cabinets, an office desk and a safe in the corner of the storeroom. Xia Pingan looked at the safe and found that it was half opened. He looked into the cabinet and found that there were 2 bottles of Shunli Dan and a key. There was nothing else inside. Xia Pingan was overjoyed. He immediately shook the 2 bottles in his hand. The sound from the bottles clearly told Xia Pingan that there were pills inside. When he opened the bottles, the special smell of Shunli Dan came from inside. Sure enough, after checking, he confirmed that the bottles contained level 1 Shunli Dan. Each bottle contained 7 level 1 Shunli Dan pills, which could recover 140 points of divine power. Finally found it, and there were 2 bottles. Xia Pingan picked up the key left in the safe and looked at it. He found that there were the words Equipment Storeroom on the key. This key should be the key to the entrance of the equipment storeroom downstairs. Strange, the other things in the safe were taken away, but why were the key to the entrance of the equipment storeroom and the 2 bottles of pills still in the safe? Xia Pingan glanced around the room. His heart suddenly brightened and then warmed. This was deliberately left behind by the people of the Special Logistics Department when they evacuated, because the only one who came here to collect Shunli Dan was him. After everyone evacuated, most people would not think that there was still Shunli Dan here. Furthermore, the outside door could only be opened with a key. It was impossible for the demon rat to use a key to open the door and enter, and it was impossible for the demon fire spider to climb up. Therefore, if he was still alive, the most likely person to come here to look for the God Power pill was him. In short, the Shunli Dan here was left behind for people, not for those monsters. The people of the Special Logistics Department wanted to replenish his divine power before they evacuated. This was a true comrade in arms. Looking at his empty secret mandala, Xia Pingan did not wait for half a moment. He raised his head and directly poured a bottle of Shunli Dan into his mouth like eating beans. This Shunli Dan was very special. Every time it entered his mouth, it would turn into a sweet liquid that flowed down his throat and into his stomach, as if it did not need to be digested at all. Then the divine power in the caisson of the temple began to condense like dewdrops. In just a moment, the divine power in the caisson of Xia Pingan's secret mandala temple became 140 light balls. Xia Pingan ate 3 Shunli Dan and left 4 Shunli Dan for reserve. Soon, Xia Pingan's available divine power became 200 points. For a summoner, as long as he had divine power, his courage would immediately increase. Taking the remaining medicinal pills and the key to the warehouse downstairs, Xia Pingan left the warehouse and went downstairs. Taking advantage of the darkness of the night, he went to the other buildings outside to search, and easily found the location of the kitchen. There were still some canned food and food left in the kitchen of the Special Logistics Department. Xia Pingan, who had not eaten for almost 2 days, was starving. He ate his fill in the kitchen, then left the kitchen and returned to the building from before. He found a room on the upper floor of the building and temporarily settled down. The Special Logistics Department was in the outskirts of the city. The surrounding terrain was open, and it would be easy to find any movement. It would not be easy to fall into a desperate situation. Moreover, there were few invading creatures around the outskirts of the city. There had been a battle here before, and invading creatures had visited this place. The possibility of those demon rats and spiders coming here was not high. Most importantly, there was a lot of food here that could be easily replenished. All in all, although the Special Logistics Department looked abrupt and conspicuous, it was actually a very safe place. Therefore, Zhang Tai could take a good rest here and recover his strength. After that, he would consider what to do next. After setting up some simple warning devices at the staircase entrance of the building, Xia Pingan locked himself in the room and entered his secret mandala. After integrating with Yu the Great's realm bead, Xia Pingan's secret mandala had undergone some changes. The tribe outside the shrine was much larger than before. The entire tribe was close to the mountains and facing the water. It hid the wind and took in the qi. Besides, the feng shui of the tribe had also undergone a great change. Inside the shrine, there was a huge pure gold relief sculpture in the center of the serene region, where the 3 reliefs of Chou clan and Shinnong clan were located. It was the story of how Yu the Great conquered the flood and stabilized the land of the 9 provinces, crossing the gate of the 9 provinces without entering it 3 times, beheading the 9-headed Shangliu and opening the Dragon Gate. On the map of the 9 provinces, 9 cauldrons stood tall. The rivers of the world surged into the sea. Among them, Hongzhe Lake, Taihu Lake, Dongting Lake, and Poyang Lake were particularly clear. On Hongzhe Lake, there was a vermilion bird spreading its wings. On Taihu Lake, there was a xuanwu. On Dongting Lake, there was an azure dragon. On Panyang Lake, there was a white tiger roaring like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. The light and shadows of the 4 great sacred beasts shone brightly. They were unusually agile and majestic. After perfectly integrating with Yu the Great's realm bead, Xia Pingan received 70 points of divine power. At this moment, the upper limit of Xia Pingan's divine power had reached 360 points. Ever since he integrated with Yu the Great's realm bead, Xia Pingan had been doing the work of pacifying souls. The secret method of summoning positions provided by Yu the Great's realm bead had never been used by Xia Pingan. It was because these summoning positions consumed too much divine power. Previously, Xia Pingan didn't have any extra divine power to waste. Almost all of his divine power had been spent on the pacifying ceremony. Xia Pingan's gaze swept over those reliefs and the various summoning positions. His gaze finally fell on Cangjie, who was at the foot of the golden text mountain. His gaze immediately focused. After thinking for a few seconds, Xia Pingan gritted his teeth and poured 100 points of divine power into Cangjie's relief. At this moment, all the reliefs in the temple blossomed with 7-colored light. They were dazzling and resplendent, resonating with each other. Then, holding a jade awl in his hand, Cangjie, whose entire body was filled with a profound and powerful aura, stepped down from the golden text mountain like an immortal. He stepped on a staircase composed of divine characters, passing through the rainbows formed by the 7-colored light, and walked down step by step. At this moment, all the figures on the reliefs seemed to have come to life. The musicians on the reliefs of the Shinnong clan began to play music for Cangjie. Heavenly music suddenly drifted in the temple. In the portrait, Han Yong hurriedly bowed to Cangjie. In the portrait, Guanzhong, who was originally sleeping on the sickbed, got up from the sickbed at this moment and bowed to Cangjie. Qi Hengong also bowed to Cangjie, but covered his face with his sleeves, looking ashamed. In Swearin, the Chou clan, Shinnong clan, Yu the Great, Qing Tang, and the others all smiled and nodded to Cangjie. As a result, all the slaves on the battlefield knelt down and saluted to Cangjie. Almost all the figures on the reliefs moved, as if they had come to life. Even the black dragon in the reliefs was obediently lying on the ground, sticking out its tongue and wagging its tail. The momentum of Cangjie's appearance shocked Xia Pingan. He didn't know why there was such a big commotion when he summoned Cangjie. Chapter 104. After arriving at the center of the shrine, Cangjie bowed to Swearin, Chou clan, and Shinnong clan, and nodded to Yu the Great, Qing Tang, and the others. Then, under the gazes of everyone, including Xia Pingan, he strode out of the shrine with his head held high and his long sleeves fluttering in the wind. Xia Pingan didn't know what Cangjie wanted to do. Cangjie walked around the village in the ink painting. Then, he came to the front of a large wooden house that occupied about 1 mu of land. He took out the jade awl in his hand and wrote the word storehouse on the door of the wooden house. The word storehouse emitted a golden light. Immediately, the wooden house flickered with golden light and became tall and solemn. Almost at the same time, Xia Pingan's consciousness gained some new information. He sensed and knew that there was a new space warehouse in his secret mandala. Furthermore, he knew how to use it at once. Yes, the place where the word storehouse was written would become his own space warehouse. He could store his items in the real world here. Space equipment? It was actually a space equipment? Song Jie only wrote the word storehouse on the building and it became his space equipment. Song Jie didn't stop with the jade all in his hand. After writing the word storehouse, he came to a place near the valley and the stream in the village. He wrote the word alchemy room on the door of a stone house with a courtyard. As soon as the brush touched the ground, the stone house became lively. There were medicine grinders, medicine mortars, medicine jars, medicine furnaces, etc. Xia Pingan was dumbfounded. Like the word storehouse, after Tsang Jie wrote the word storehouse, Xia Pingan's consciousness also gained some new information. The information told Xia Pingan that the function of this alchemy room was to refine pills. As long as he put the corpses of those space-invading creatures or medicinal materials into the storehouse, the LV-1 pharmacist that he summoned in the secret mandala would be able to refine LV-1 pills. For example, LV-1 Shunli Dan. It was made from the corpses of invading space creatures, such as devil fire spiders and devil liquid spiders. Alchemists could extract the divine power from the bodies of these space invaders and turn it into pills. These changes in Song Jie and the secret mandala were totally out of Xia Pingan's expectation. This was a real surprise. That was not all. After writing the word alchemy room, Song Jie directly returned to the shrine. Standing on the altar in the middle of the shrine, he pointed the jade all in his hand at the reliefs of Shenong clan. 10 plain-looking but sturdy farmer were summoned at once. Song Jie could actually summon people from the mandala by himself? And by using the divine power in the shrine? As soon as the 10 farmer were summoned, the divine power in the caisson of Xia Pingan's shrine decreased by 50 points. There were only 50 points of divine power left. The 10 farmers stood in a row and bowed to Song Jie and the 3 emperors. Then, the golden mountain of characters released a ray of light above the heads of the 10 farmers. Like a baptism and enlightenment, the light lingered for a few seconds and then disappeared. What did this mean? Xia Pingan was puzzled. He remembered that the first time he summoned a farmer, the farmer he summoned was not illuminated by the golden text mountain. But at that time, he did not fuse with Song Jie's realm pearl. He wondered what kind of changes would occur to the farmer after being illuminated by the golden text mountain. Xia Pingan looked at the 10 farmer and found that the eyes of the 4 farmer had a little more lively luster. When he took a closer look at the 10 farmers, the words above their heads appeared. Summoned character. Farmer consumption of divine power. 5 health. 60 wisdom. 50 combat strength. 3 skills. 1. Farming 2. Silkworm rearing 3. Tea picking, plain descending time. 720 minutes. The farmer that Song Jie summoned this time seemed to have increased his wisdom by 5 points. Xia Pingan remembered that the farmer's wisdom was only 45 points. Right, that Song Jie that he summoned did not have such attribute. Did this mean that the only big shots that could be summoned were all like this? The 10 farmer that were summoned left the shrine. In the blink of an eye, a farmer went to the storage room and started to clean up the storage room. Another farmer went to the pill room and started to clean up the pill room. The other 8 farmers started to work in the village's farmlands. Song Jie summoned another craftsman. The new craftsman's attributes were also different from the previous one. After being illuminated by the golden text mountain, his wisdom also increased by 5 points. Summoned character. Elite craftsman consumption of divine power. 6 health. 60 wisdom. 60 combat strength. 3 skills. 1. Making farming tools. 2. Making linen. 3. making arrows 4, making pottery 5, cooking salt 6, making zither 7, woodworking plain descending time 10:80 minutes. Then, the elite craftsman left the shrine and went to the forest outside to chop bamboo. After a while, the craftsman chopped some bamboo and cut it into pieces of wood before sending it to the shrine. Songjia found a place at the side of the shrine and used the jade all in his hand to carve words on the bamboo pieces. He seemed to be recording something. Xia Pingan took a look and realized that Songjia was recording the process of swearin drilling wood to start a fire. Seeing this, Xia Pingan did not know what to say. To a certain extent, Songjia was able to control the secret mandala and cause so many changes to occur within it. From a certain perspective, Songjia could be considered the secret master of the mandala. No wonder some summoners regarded the divine runic world bead as the most important spirit world bead and ruler world bead of their secret mandala. It was likely that those summoners who had successfully fused with this world bead had also felt some mysterious changes in their mandala. But Lin Ming didn't know if the secret mandala of those summoners could be like his own and open up such a massive space warehouse. That's right, the space warehouse was so mystical that he hadn't tried it yet. Within his room, Xia Pingan suddenly opened his eyes. He first sensed the warehouse in his secret mandala. This warehouse covered an area of 600 to 700 square meters. It was extremely large. There weren't many things around him. Xia Pingan took out the black cobra steel whip that he carried with him. With a thought, the black cobra steel whip in his hand suddenly disappeared. At the same time, a black cobra steel whip appeared in his warehouse. With another thought, the steel whip of the black cobra returned to his hand from the warehouse. Xia Pingan tried it twice and found that, whether it was putting things into the warehouse or taking things out, it was very convenient. As long as he moved his mind, he could freely take things out or send them into the warehouse. This was too mystical. Everything was as simple as taking something out of his pocket. Xia Pingan directly sent his steel whip, his MR98 pistol, and the bottle of pills into the secret mandala's warehouse. Like this, he wouldn't have to worry about losing them. Before sending in the pill bottle, Xia Pingan looked at the divine force points in his temple's caisson well. He had 200 points of divine force, but now he only had 44 points left. He ate 2 first-grade Shenli Dan, restoring his divine force to 84 points. Only then did he feel a little more at ease. That's right, wasn't the pill room able to use the corpses of invading demons to refine pills? Didn't he have the corpses of the 2 demon rats downstairs? He could try it out. Just do it. Xia Pingan left the room and went downstairs. The corpses of the 2 demon rats were still near the staircase on the first floor. They had lost a lot of blood, but they were still fresh. Xia Pingan came to the side of a demon rat's corpse and kicked it. With a thought, the demon rat's corpse was sent into the warehouse. The other demon rat's corpse was also easily sent into the warehouse. Xia Pingan returned upstairs to his room and entered the secret mandala. This time, Xia Pingan found that the alchemist who seemed to have gone to pick herbs in the black fog with a medicine basket on his back was actually carrying the medicine basket again. He was wearing a bamboo hat and picking up a medicine hoe as he eagerly came out of the black fog and returned to the alchemy room happily. There were some flowers, grass, roots, leaves, and so on in the medicine basket of the pharmacist. Everything in this secret mandala was too amazing. Was it really possible to pick herbs in there? With this thought in mind, Xia Pingan ordered the pharmacist to refine pills with the corpses of demon rats in the warehouse. His thought was the order. Soon, the farmer who was doing odd jobs in the pill room came to the warehouse with a rope and a wooden carrying pole. He and the farmer who was guarding the warehouse tied up a demon rat with the rope. The 2 farmers then carried the demon rat to the pill room. The 2 farmer ran twice and brought the 2 demon rats to the pill room. That LV1 pharmacist then started to refine the 2 demon rats. Meanwhile, Xia Pingan received a message in his mind. it would take 6 hours to refine the pills successfully. Having not slept for almost 2 days, Xia Pingan directly fell asleep in his room. 6 hours later, Xia Pingan woke up. The tiredness of the past 2 days had disappeared. In his storehouse, there were already 2 sets of medicinal pills. The 2 sets of pills were placed on the floor of the warehouse in 2 rustic wooden boxes. Xia Pingan looked at one of the boxes. There were 10 dark red pills in the box. They were different from the Xunli Dan. Xia Pingan looked at them and automatically knew the name and ability of the pill, Body Strengthening Pill. Body Strengthening Pill was useful for people below the first Yuan realm, regardless of gender. It could strengthen one's qi, blood, spirit, and physique. 1 body strengthening pill could be taken a day. Its greatest effect was to let one's body reach 90% of the physical ability of the first Yuan realm. At this stage, no matter how many body strengthening pills one took, it would be useless. An average person could achieve this effect by taking 180 body strengthening pills. In the other box, there was a pill that was about the same size as the God Power pill, but its color was slightly lighter than the God Power pill. The initial Spirit pill was a lower-level pill than the Xunli Dan. Its effect was exactly the same as the Xunli Dan, but it was weaker. 1 initial Spirit pill could replenish 5 points of divine power, which was a quarter of the effect of the Xunli Dan. Chapter 105. Initial God Pill? Could it be the name of the elementary Xunli Dan? After understanding the effects of the initial God Pill, Xia Pingan wasn't disappointed. Instead, he was overjoyed. Even if 1 initial God Pill could only recover 5 points of divine force, it was still a lot. At a critical moment, these 5 points of divine force could save his life. More importantly, Xia Pingan saw hope that he could persevere in fighting against the space invaders. He provided 2 devil rats and received 10 body strengthening pills and 1 initial God pill. In other words, as long as he killed a devil rat, he would receive 5 body strengthening pills and half a initial God pill. In other words, killing a devil rat would give him 5 points of divine force. With his current strength, he didn't need to rely on summoning spells to kill devil rat. For a summoner, as long as they could replenish their divine force, they would be able to fight endlessly. He had to see the effects of the initial God pill. As Xia Pingan thought about it, he wanted to take out the wooden box containing the initial God pill. However, with a thought, what appeared in Xia Pingan's hand was the initial God pill. He couldn't take out the wooden box. At the same time, more information appeared in Xia Pingan's consciousness. The wooden box was from the secret mandala and could not be taken out of the secret mandala. Only things that entered the secret mandala from this world could be taken out of the secret mandala. Understood. Xia Pingan looked at the initial God pill in his hand. The initial God pill was very similar to the grade 1 Xunli Dan in both color and smell. It was just a bit lighter. Xia Pingan swallowed the initial God pill in 1 gulp. It felt like he was eating a God Power pill. The initial God pill turned into a sweet liquid that flowed down his throat. Then, the secret temple caisson in the secret mandala condensed another 5 God Power light orb. Xia Pingan's divine force recovered to 89 points. This effect was exactly the same as that of the grade 1 Xunli Dan. It turned out that the pharmacists summoned from the secret mandala were used in this way. They had to cooperate with Songjie to open a pill room and a warehouse in the secret mandala so that the pharmacists could continuously transform the monsters killed by the summoners into magical pills that could help the summoners continue to fight. If he couldn't fuse with Songjie's realm pearl, then the summoned pharmacist could only be summoned to the real world to refine pills. That way there would be many inconveniences. A powerful summoner could be self-sufficient. But because Songjie's realm pearl was precious and rare, not many summoners could summon a pharmacist after fusing with the Shenong clan's realm pearl. So, most of the pharmacists couldn't fuse with the Shenong clan's realm pearl. Xia Pingan thought, that should be it. Since there was a huge space warehouse in the secret altar, Xia Pingan wasn't going to waste it. He was now in the 87th Legion's Special Logistics Department. If he didn't find something here, it would be a waste of his space warehouse. It was still around 4 in the morning. The sky was still dark outside and everything was quiet. Xia Pingan was full of energy and didn't feel sleepy. He took the key to the warehouse downstairs that he had just obtained from the safe and quietly went downstairs. He went outside, opened the door of the Special Logistics Department's warehouse, and entered the warehouse. As soon as he entered the warehouse, Xia Pingan saw dozens of black plastic ammunition boxes on the most conspicuous shelf. The boxes were spray-painted with the words, 50 Magnum bullets for MR98 revolver pistols, 1,000 normal bullets. There were also a few boxes with the words, 50 Magnum bullets for MR98 revolver pistols, 1,000 pure silver bullets. These things were definitely left for him because next to the pile of ammunition were 2 MR98 pistols that were still in the boxes. The 87th Legion might not have a lot of Shunli Dan as they needed to be allocated by the military. However, they had as many bullets and firearms as they wanted. Xia Pingan opened a black plastic ammo box. Inside the box there were 1,000 rounds of 50 Magnum handgun bullets neatly arranged. At the same time, each box was equipped with a quick reloader and a quick bridge clip. It was very considerate. There were 15 boxes of normal bullets, 10 boxes of pure silver bullets, and 2 spare MR98 pistols. Xia Pingan directly stored them in his space warehouse. With these tens of thousands of bullets and these 2 pistols, he estimated that he could use them for many years. In addition to his most commonly used pistols and bullets, the warehouse was also full of other weapons and equipment. There was no need to mention the RPG rocket launchers. They were definitely good things to deal with the demon fire spiders and demon liquid spiders when he didn't have any divine power. Xia Pingan casually stored more than 10 RPG rocket launchers and hundreds of rocket launchers into his own space warehouse. Grenades, smoke grenades, sniper rifles, high-energy explosives, high-precision sniper ammunition, sniper crossbows, special cold weapons, wilderness survival kits, all kinds of medicine, all kinds of military equipment. There was a dazzling array of things. There were just too many. As long as there was a possibility that they could be used, Xia Pingan stored them in his space warehouse. In just a short while, Xia Pingan's space warehouse was filled with all kinds of weapons and ammunition. Almost half of the warehouse in the Special Logistics Department was emptied by Xia Pingan. After leaving the weapons warehouse, Xia Pingan went to the kitchen and the cold storage in the kitchen. He moved the boxes of mineral water, all kinds of canned food, as well as the shelves in the cold storage into his own warehouse. There were more than 100 tons of them. Other than himself, other warriors of the 87th Legion knew that there were all kinds of supplies stored in the Special Logistics Department. Considering the possibility that other people might come here to look for things, Xia Pingan didn't move all the things that could be eaten or used. He even left a lot of things here. With all this food, Xia Pingan felt that even if he was thrown into the North Pole, he could survive for hundreds of years without any pressure. There was no time acceleration in the space warehouse in the secret mandala. Therefore, the food would still be the same after 100 years. While Xia Pingan was putting things into the space warehouse, the farmer in the secret mandala, who was guarding the space warehouse, dutifully sorted out the things that Xia Pingan put in. Everything was organized neatly. The food was placed on one side and the weapons on the other. The space warehouse had a capacity of more than 7,000 cubic meters. Xia Pingan only took up a small part of the space warehouse, even though he put in a lot of things. The space warehouse could still store a lot of things. After coming out of the Special Logistics Department's cafeteria cold storage, Xia Pingan was about to go upstairs and try to create a few holy rune bullets with holy runes when a series of sudden and intense gunshots and explosions suddenly came from the darkness in the distance. The place where the gunshots and explosions came from was less than 1,000 meters away from the Special Logistics Department. It was just before dawn. The sky was just about to brighten. Xia Pingan looked in the direction of the gunshots with his remote vision. He saw a team of more than 10 87th Legion soldiers running quickly with a few ordinary people in a twisted leaf pine forest on the outskirts of the city about 600 meters away. 5 demon rats were chasing after them. Even further away, in the forest about 1,000 meters away, there was a squad of demon liquid spiders chasing after them. Due to the demon liquid spiders' large size, it was very inconvenient for them to enter the twisted leaf pine forest. They would be blocked by the tree trunks. Therefore, they were abnormally irritable and fell far behind. The 5 demon rats, on the other hand, were unusually fierce. They bared their teeth and chased after the people who were running away. As the soldiers ran, they used the assault rifles and grenades in their hands to stop the demon rats from chasing after them. However, the demon rats were too resistant to ordinary bullet. Ordinary bullets could injure the demon rats, but it was very difficult to kill them. Moreover, the demon rats were too agile in the pine forest and knew how to use the surrounding trees to dodge the bullet. The 87th Legion soldiers were covering for the escape. They seemed to be ordinary citizens of Xinchuan City. There were a few men, a few women, a young man and a child. The child was directly carried on the back of a man. Everyone was running for their lives in the forest. The moment he saw this scene, Xia Pingan rushed towards the twisted leaf pine forest as fast as he could. As Xia Pingan ran, he took out a pitch-black sharp longsword that he had just stored in his space storage. Against things like demon rats, if he didn't want to use up his divine power and make as little noise as possible, the Black Cobra steel whip wasn't very suitable. These weapons were more suitable. They would be able to bring out the strength of his first primary realm body. With a distance of more than 600 meters, Xia Pingan rushed into the forest in 40 seconds. He was faster than a cheetah. Da-da-da-da. One of the soldiers fell behind. He was half squatting on the ground and shooting at the demon rats chasing after him. However, in the blink of an eye, one of the demon rats suddenly sped up. It circled around a few pine trees and dodged the bullet. It charged out of the bushes and pounced on the soldier. Zhao Yang. When the 2 soldiers saw this scene, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The demon rat had already pounced on their comrade. Both sides were rolling on the ground. If they shot, they would hurt Zhao Yang. One of the soldiers pulled out a dagger and rushed over. The other soldier roared and raised the squad machine gun in his hand. He roared and fired at the demon rats behind them. "Don't worry about me. Go." The soldier on the ground held the assault rifle tightly with both hands. He used the barrel of the assault rifle to block the demon rat's open mouth and teeth. He didn't let the demon rat bite him. However, the demon rat was too strong. After both sides rolled on the ground a few times, the demon rat directly pressed down on the soldier. Its sharp teeth were slowly inching towards the soldier's throat. At this moment, Xia Pingan appeared. Xia Pingan's figure flashed. He rushed to the demon rat's side first. With one slash, the head of the demon rat that was pinning down the soldier of the 87 Legion was chopped off by Xia Pingan. Blood sprayed all over the soldier's head. "Go quickly. Go to the east. Leave the rest to me." Xia Pingan turned around and shouted at the soldiers. "Summer Priest." Xia Pingan's Legion Priest badge was still on his chest. Seeing the badge on Xia Pingan's chest, the soldiers immediately knew who Xia Pingan was. They all became excited as if they had seen their savior. As expected of the 87 Legion's Legion Priest. He was too strong. Such a troublesome demon rat was beheaded in one slash. Chapter 106. Perhaps it was because the reputation of the priest of Xia Pingan Corps was too well known. Perhaps it was Xia Pingan's ability to kill the demon rat with one slash that made those soldiers extremely confident in him. In short, when Xia Pingan ordered those people to run to the east and leave the invading demon creatures to him, those soldiers all quickly retreated. No one was worried about whether Xia Pingan could deal with the demon rat and the demon liquid spider that were chasing after him. Xia Pingan took the initiative to rush towards the other 4 demon rats. Demon rats were intelligent creatures. Seeing Xia Pingan kill one of their companions, the remaining 4 demon rats did not chase after those who were running away. Instead, they immediately surrounded Xia Pingan. The demon rats were lying on the ground with mucus dripping from their sharp teeth. They kept moving around while staring at Xia Pingan with their blood-red eyes. Xia Pingan felt that these 4 devil rats seemed to be waiting for the devil liquid spider behind them to arrive. How could he let these devil rats do as they wished? If the devil rats didn't take the initiative to attack him, then he would take the initiative to attack. Xia Pingan pounced on the demon rat in front of him. However, as soon as he moved, the demon rat in front of him felt Xia Pingan pouncing on it and hurriedly retreated to one side. Meanwhile, the other 3 demon rats pounced on Xia Pingan on his left, right and back. Especially the demon rat behind Xia Pingan. Its 2-meter-long body suddenly jumped up from the ground and directly bit at Xia Pingan's neck. However, Xia Pingan's pounce was just a feint to confuse the demon rat. He not only scared off the demon rat in front of him, but also attracted the attention of the other 3 demon rats. When the demon rat in the back turned around and pounced, Xia Pingan had also turned around. Xia Pingan seemed to have eyes on his back. Before he turned around, he had already executed a beautiful 180-degree slash with his long saber. The demon rat only had time to utter half a scream before its head was cut off from its neck by Xia Pingan's long saber. The moment Xia Pingan drew back his long saber, he stabbed it into the ground like a nail, nailing a demon rat who was rushing towards him from his left side and wanted to attack his lower body. Xia Pingan supported his body with his long saber. He then turned his body horizontally in the air to avoid the attack of the demon rat that was rushing towards him from the right. After that, he ferociously stomped on the ground with his right foot and stepped on the head of another demon rat. Xia Pingan's body erupted with a powerful force, directly stomping the demon rat's head into the ground. Only in a second, 1 demon rat was killed by Xia Pingan. As for the remaining 2 demon rats, one was nailed to the ground by Xia Pingan with his long saber, while the other one was stepped on by Xia Pingan with his foot. Not until then did the retreating demon rat realize that it had been tricked. After shrieking, it saw that Xia Pingan was controlling the other 2 demon rats. Therefore, it charged towards Xia Pingan once again. The 2 demon rats that were nailed to the ground by Xia Pingan and stepped on by Xia Pingan were indeed not dead. Demon rats had strong vitality. They were still struggling. The 2 demon rats dug their forepaws into the ground and tried to get out. Xia Pingan grabbed the handle of his long saber and pressed it down forcefully. The long saber stabbed into the ground, turned into a guillotine, and directly cut the demon rat's head from the middle like cutting a melon, killing it instantly. Then Xia Pingan directly inserted the long saber into the mouth of the demon rat that was rushing towards him. The black tip of the saber came out from the back of the demon rat's head. After the saber was pulled out, the demon rat fell to the ground. It didn't die at once, but it was too late to struggle and escape. Xia Pingan once again slashed out with his saber, chopping off the demon rat's head. The demon rat under Xia Pingan's feet had already dug out 2 pits on the ground. Xia Pingan then chopped off the head of the demon rat with his saber. Closely after that, the demon rat stopped struggling. In these 2 rounds, the other 4 demon rats were also killed by Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan used his fastest speed to collect the corpses of the 5 demon rats on the ground and sent them into the space warehouse. Then, he rushed towards the demon liquid spider. When he was dozens of meters away from the demon liquid spider spat out silk at Xia Pingan. A silk thread shot towards Xia Pingan like an arrow. Xia Pingan flashed and dodged it. The silk thread was swung horizontally. 2 waist-thick tree trunks and some shrubs were corroded by the demon liquid spider's silk thread. They were cut like tofu and fell down with a loud bang. Xia Pingan dodged the demon liquid spider's attack. Then, he took out the MR-98 and fired 3 shots at the demon liquid spider. The 3 shots hit the demon liquid spider's head. Although they couldn't penetrate the demon liquid spider's defense, they successfully enraged it. Another silk thread cut through the tree trunk and flew towards him. Xia Pingan turned around and ran towards the southwest. Before he ran, he turned around and fired another shot. The demon liquid spider recklessly rushed towards Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan ran towards a place with fewer people. He lured the demon liquid spider away from the direction of the warriors. Xia Pingan ran neither fast nor slow. He was always under the eyes of the demon liquid spider, but the demon liquid spider couldn't reach him. Moreover, the route that Xia Pingan chose wasn't the kind of dense forest where the demon liquid spider couldn't squeeze through. The demon liquid spider's several attacks were easily dodged by Xia Pingan. This made the demon liquid spider even angrier and it chased after him relentlessly. More than 10 minutes later, Xia Pingan had already run 5 to 6 kilometers in the forest with the magic liquid spider and arrived at a small valley in the wilderness. After arriving here, Xia Pingan stopped running. Instead, he suddenly stopped and turned around to face the demon liquid spider that was rushing towards him. The demon liquid spider was extremely angry. It no longer spat out corrosive silk threads. Its ferocious and huge body was like a tank as it ran over the shrubs on the ground and smashed through a pile of soil. It rushed toward Xia Pingan with its mouth wide open. It couldn't wait to swallow Xia Pingan whole. From the moment Xia Pingan appeared until now, he hadn't used any spells. He had only attacked with his gun. Therefore, the demon liquid spider didn't expect that Xia Pingan was a summoner. Black Tortoise. Xia Pingan let out a low roar before unleashing a spell that he had prepared beforehand. The black tortoise came out. It had the head of a snake and the body of a tortoise. Its entire body was pitch black, and its entire body was rippling with black waves. Its entire body seemed to be made of black water, and it carried a gloomy chill. This was the summoning slot that Xia Pingan had mastered when he first summoned Yu the Great. Summoning Xuanwu consumed a total of 36 points of divine power. At first, Xia Pingan thought that the Xuanwu that he could summon would be huge and majestic. It would be at least as big as the demon liquid spider, but, seeing the real Xuanwu that he summoned, Xia Pingan almost lost his confidence. He turned around and was about to continue running. The Xuanwu that he summoned was only slightly bigger than his palm. It wasn't much bigger than a turtle. The Xuanwu that he summoned was very fast. He stepped on a few black water splashes. In the blink of an eye, he rushed in front of the demon liquid spider that was many times bigger than him. When the two stood side by side, the difference in size was too big. It felt like a real heavy battle tank was placed next to a toy tank that a child was playing with. The black tortoise bit down on the hard shell on the back of the magic liquid spider. The black water that formed the black tortoise's body suddenly spread out and covered the entire magic liquid spider. The black tortoise disappeared. Its attack was to take a bite. Then, the demon liquid spider that was charging aggressively at Xia Pingan completely froze. It was like a stone statue, completely motionless. The light of life in the demon liquid spider's eyes dimmed in an instant. A layer of white frost instantly covered the demon liquid spider's body. Even the ground where the demon liquid spider was standing was covered in a layer of white frost. The might of the black tortoise's attack power gave Xia Pingan a fright. Xia Pingan originally thought that there would be a fierce battle. He didn't expect Xuanwu to just bite. Seeing that the demon liquid spider could no longer move, Xia Pingan carefully approached the motionless demon liquid spider. After checking, he confirmed that the demon liquid spider was really dead. It was as dead as a frozen pork taken out of a freezer. Chapter 107. Xia Pingan put away the magic liquid spiders that had been killed by Xuanwu and took a detour back. He was both excited and shocked. He didn't expect that the sacred beast that Yu the Great had obtained from controlling the flood could kill the magic liquid spiders so easily. Xuanwu belonged to the water element, and its symbolism included the netherworld, Rengui and Jida. Xuanwu was also the head of the water god, which could strike fear into the hearts of all evil creatures. He didn't expect it to be so powerful. Xia Pingan had felt that the 36 points of divine force cost too much, but after seeing the effect, Xia Pingan felt that the 36 points of divine force were well spent. At this moment, Xia Pingan's secret mandala only had 53 points of divine force left from the 89 points of divine force. Xia Pingan spared some time to take a look at the secret mandala. In the secret mandala, he didn't have to worry about the corpses of the 5 demon rats and the magic liquid spiders that had been stored in the portal warehouse. The 2 farmers guarding the portal warehouse and the alchemy room were already dealing with them. The 2 farmers opened up the heads of the demon rats and the magic liquid spiders to check if there were any realm pearls in their head. After finding that there were no realm pearls, the 2 farmers carried the demon rats to the alchemy room and then returned to the portal warehouse. They removed the internal organs and brain matter of the magic liquid spiders and sent them to the alchemy room in containers. Xia Pingan originally thought that the farmer and the pharmacist in the secret mandala might be able to cut open the bodies of the magic liquid spiders. However, after taking a closer look, he realized that he was worrying too much. The 2 farmers took out 2 clay pots from the alchemy room and poured the liquid in the pots onto the magic liquid spiders' bodies. The hard shells of the magic liquid spiders softened by more than half, and then they could cut them open. When Xia Pingan was sizing up the secret mandala, Song Jie, Song Sheng, took the initiative to summon a pharmacist. The newly summoned alchemist also received a 5-point increase in intelligence after being baptized by the Golden Text Mountain, becoming 66 points. His other attributes, however, remained unchanged. The newly summoned pharmacist bowed to the 3 emperors in the Divine Palace, then left the Divine Palace and went to the pill room. After spending 12 points of divine power, the 53 points of divine power became 41 points. Song Jie summoned another 2 farmers. Xia Pingan's heart trembled. His god power was being consumed too quickly. In the blink of an eye, his 41 points of god power had become 31 points. However, the farmer that Song Jie summoned this time was different from the previous ones. To be precise, it wasn't a farmer this time, but 2 women. This was the first time Xia Pingan learned that the farmer in the secret altar could summon women. It seemed like there were many secrets in the secret altar that he didn't know. In the blink of an eye, the 2 women also left the divine palace and went to the village outside to busy themselves. Xia Pingan used his remote vision to look at the soldiers who had left before. He found that they had indeed arrived at the Special Logistics Office after leaving from the east. The signboard of the Special Logistics Office was still hanging. The soldiers led the refugees to the Special Logistics Office and hid in the 4-story building. 2 soldiers stayed outside to hide, while the other soldiers went to the kitchen to look for food. Finding that there were still many things in the kitchen and cold storage of the Special Logistics Office, the soldiers brought some canned food, water, and food back and distributed them to everyone. The group of people hurriedly ate. Everyone was starving. When Xia Pingan took a detour back to the Special Logistics Office, the east was slightly red and the sky was just about to brighten. "Don't move, who's there?" Xia Pingan asked coldly as he drilled out of the bushes outside the fence of the airport. A black muzzle was immediately pointed at him from the bushes beside him. The soldier who was hiding in the bushes didn't carry night vision equipment. The distance between them was more than 20 meters. Before the sky was completely bright, he could only see a person drilled out of the bushes beside him. Therefore, he hurriedly shouted at the person to stop. If it was something else, such as a demon rat, the soldier might have opened fire at once. "It's me." Xia Pingon looked at the muzzle. "Ah, summer priest." The soldier hurriedly climbed up from the bushes and rushed towards Xia Pingon. After saluting, he glanced around vigilantly. Seeing that the surroundings were calm and there were no demon rats or magic liquid spiders, he let out a sigh of relief. "Where are those demon rats and magic liquid spiders?" "They've been killed," Xia Pingon said casually. "It's safe here for the time being. The other demons won't come here for the time being. You can take a rest first." "The company commander asked me to be on guard here," the soldier said. Seeing that these soldiers were very vigilant, Xia Pingon nodded and didn't say anything more. He then returned to the logistics department. When Xia Pingon arrived, 2 soldiers were scratching their heads at the door of the warehouse. They wanted to blow up the door lock with a grenade, but they were afraid of making too much noise and attracting those demons. "I have the key here." In the astonished eyes of the 2 soldiers, Xia Pingon took out the key, opened the door of the warehouse, and let the 2 soldiers inside to get something. In a conference room on the 3rd floor, Xia Pingon once again saw the soldiers and the ordinary people who had escaped from the city. The curtains of the conference room were drawn. A group of people had just finished eating and were carefully resting in the conference room. The 2 soldiers had taken several first aid kits from the warehouse and were treating the injured people. Fortunately, none of them were seriously injured. They only had slight abrasions and scratches, which were not serious. If they were seriously injured, they wouldn't have been able to survive until now. Wu Guolin, the company commander of the 107th Mechanized Infantry Brigade under the 87th Corps, greets the Corps priest. As soon as Xia Pingon appeared, all the soldiers saluted him together and looked at Xia Pingon with reverence. After chatting for a while, Xia Pingon learned about their experience. These soldiers were mainly from the 107th Mechanized Infantry Brigade, and several of them were from other troops. They had all gathered together after being separated. The day before yesterday, the troops had evacuated from Xinchuan, and the situation was very chaotic. These soldiers and ordinary people didn't have time to meet up with the rest of the troop. After a day's delay, they could only find a place to hide in the city. Last night, a group of people took advantage of the darkness to break out, but they didn't expect to encounter a demon rat. They opened fire and killed the demon rat, but they didn't expect to attract more demon rats and a demon liquid spider. 2 more soldiers were killed in the process of being chased. Xia Pingon also knew what happened next. If they hadn't met Xia Pingon, these people probably wouldn't have survived the pursuit of those demon rats and demon liquid spiders. These soldiers asked about Xia Pingon's experience. Xia Pingon also said that he and the other summoners had stayed until the end to cover the evacuation of the troops and the citizens of Xinchuan City. They were also separated from the troop. According to Wu Guolin, there were still some soldiers and citizens in the city who hadn't had time to evacuate. When they escaped last night, they heard explosions and gunshots in the city. Xia Pingon asked them to rest here for a day and find a way to leave in the evening. These people had to rest because the soldiers still had a bit of physical strength. As for the ordinary men and women, even if they were running for their lives, after a night of running and scaring, they were exhausted. If they didn't rest and restore their physical strength, they wouldn't be able to run again. Fortunately, Xia Pingon was here to replenish some equipment and food. Everyone was relieved to rest here and prepare to leave after dark. After Xia Pingon and Wu Guolin finished talking, he asked everyone to rest here. Just as he walked out of the room, a 20-something officer with a dark skin, a straight nose, and a capable temperament, wearing the military rank of 2nd lieutenant, followed Xia Pingon out. He quickly caught up with Xia Pingon. "Summer priest, do you know Mo Yanchao?" Xia Pingon turned around and looked at the 2nd lieutenant. "I'm Manzijin. a member of the 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando. Man Zi is my older brother. He used to work at the Xianghe City Committee of Order. The young second lieutenant introduced. The 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando? That was the special forces of the 87th Legion. The people in it were all elite soldiers. Just now, Xia Pingan inexplicably felt that this man Zijin was a little familiar. There was a familiar aura between his eyebrows. It turned out that he was Man Zi's younger brother. He looked frivolous and liked to flirt with beauties, but he was actually a very good person. After Uncle Man left the Xianghe Order Committee, the Xianghe City Order Committee became much more deserted. He didn't expect Man Zi's younger brother to be serving the country. How's your brother? After August 15th, I lost contact with him. Manzijin shook her head and said in a low voice. Lost contact? What happened to him? He was in France before. France was a little chaotic. Before we lost contact, we contacted each other once. At that time, my brother reminded me to be careful. There might be a demon spirit outbreak in the future. What happened? After my brother arrived in Europe, he discovered that the demon eyes were secretly collecting and smuggling nuclear fuel. They even kidnapped nuclear physicists. Xia Pingan frowned slightly, and waves surged in his heart. In fact, he had suspected that the demon spirits running out of the spatial rift were caused by Russia throwing hydrogen bombs into the spatial rift. Because it was a rumor, it had never been confirmed, and the Russian military had denied it. Since the Garden of Eden project in Europe, the global control of nuclear materials had been stricter than imagined for more than half a century. Man Zi was in charge of intelligence work, and the clues he found were not groundless. The demon eyes were collecting and smuggling nuclear fuel and kidnapping nuclear physicists. This was no small matter. But why hadn't he received any notice of such an important matter when he was in the Demon Suppression Guard? It was fine if his level was low, but Tang Guofeng of the 87th Legion should be high enough. Tang Guofeng shouldn't know about this either. If Tang Guofeng knew, then the troops of the 87th Legion stationed in Xinchuan City would not be unprepared. Chapter 108. The Demon Suppression Guards in Yi Province had been re-established, but Tang Guofeng had sent most of the summoners of the newly established Yi Province Demon Suppression Guards to the Thousand Dragon Mountain Range to eliminate the monsters hiding in the mountains. The troops of the 87th Legion were guarding the spatial rifts near the cities and plains all over Yi Province, and there were not many summoners stationed in the provincial capital, Xinchuan City. The troops of the 87th Legion guarding the spatial rifts in the city basically did not consider that they would encounter such a large-scale demon spirit assault, so they collapsed so quickly and suffered heavy casualties. If Tang Guofeng had known that the demon eyes might have created and obtained nuclear weapons, there would definitely not have been so few summoners in the troops stationed in Xinchuan City, and the focus of the demon suppression guards would not have been entirely on clearing out the monsters in the mountains. It was precisely because no one expected so many phantom monsters and demon spirits to surge out of the spatial rifts that this disaster and great defeat occurred. What exactly went wrong? Was it because the clues and information Man Zi found were not complete enough, so he did not report it to the Committee of Order? Or was there a problem with the internal intelligence response of the Committee of Order, and it did not attract enough attention and was ignored? Or was there a problem with the communication between the Committee of Order and the Military Control Committee? For the current Xia Pingan, there was no way to investigate these problems. Your brother is very competent at his job and has never disappointed anyone. I'm very sorry about what happened to your brother. Xia Pingan said to Manzijin. One of us joined the Committee of Order, and the other joined the army. We're both engaged in dangerous work and serving the country. In fact, we've already disregarded life and death. My brother is just missing. I only hope that the heavens will help him, Manzijin said to Xia Pingan. Then Xia Pingan asked a question. Is the summer priest going to continue fighting in Xinchuan City? Why are you asking this question? Because I want to stay here and continue fighting. Manzajan's eyes flashed as she said firmly. Xia Pingan did not expect this question. At this time, many people wanted to escape from Xinchuan, but Manzajan wanted to stay. The choice of this member of the 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando was somewhat beyond his expectations. Interesting. Why do you want to stay? I want to avenge my comrades and brothers. Is this reason enough? This reason is enough, but are you sure you don't want to leave? If you leave here, you can meet up with the other troops, and it will be safer. Summer Priest, do you think the 87th Legion still exists? Manzajan asked back. Xia Pingan's expression also turned serious. This was exactly what he was worried about. From last night until now, he had not seen any fighter jets or drones flying over Xinchuan City again. If the 87th Legion's command system was still functioning, the Legion's strength was still relatively intact, and the military airfields and air forces in various parts of Ezhou were still operating normally, then sending fighter jets or drones to Xinchuan to check out the situation should be the most basic operation and most normal reaction. Unfortunately, the skies over Xinchuan City had been too quiet ever since the Legion retreated that night. With such a big incident happening in Xinchuan, with the loss of a provincial capital and countless casualties, the Fire Country's Supreme Military Management Committee should have already known about the situation in Xinchuan City. But similarly, there were no fighter jets or drones coming over to investigate. This meant that the situation in the entire Fire Country was probably so bad that the Supreme Military Management Committee could not care less about a place like Xinchuan. These were all reasonable deductions based on the current situation. I believe that Xinchuan City is not the only place where phantom monsters and spirits came out of the spatial rift that night. The tide of demonic spirits may have spread to the entire Fire Country or even the entire world. The last order from the 87th Legion's headquarters was for everyone to cover the evacuation of Xinchuan City. Since then, we have not been able to get in touch with the Legion. I heard that some invading magical creatures are still chasing after the retreating troops and personnel. The troops and personnel retreating from Xinchuan City should also be in the midst of battle, or they might have already been completely routed. Many places in the Fire Country should be in a state of anarchy right now, or else the fighter jets would have already come. Manzajan said resolutely. Since fighting is inevitable no matter where we go, as a soldier, I choose to stay here and fight. I will not let those magical creatures take over Xinchuan so easily. This was a soldier of the great Fire Country. Xia Pingan found himself admiring this Manzajan a little. I will also stay and continue fighting with those magical creatures. If you are willing to stay, you can fight freely or you can fight with me. However, if you want to fight with me, you must obey my orders. 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando member Manzajan reporting for duty, sir. Manzajan lowered her chin and put on a serious expression. She stood at attention and saluted Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan enjoyed the treatment of a colonel in the 87th Legion, and he was also the Legion's priest. As a second lieutenant of the 87th Corps Fire Dragon Commando, he had no qualms about accepting Xia Pingan's orders at this time. Furthermore, Xia Pingan had already displayed his strength before. At this time, the truth that the strong were respected was even more convincing. Whoever could kill the magical creatures would be the boss. Everything else was meaningless. What position do you hold in the Fire Dragon Commandos? I'm a sniper of the Fire Dragon Commandos. I'm also proficient in ambushes, reconnaissance, infiltration, capture, explosives, and driving all kinds of vehicles and aircrafts, as expected of a member of the Special Forces, and a sniper at that. Her abilities were not bad. Xia Pingan rubbed his chin and looked at Manzajan seriously. To be able to serve as a sniper of the Fire Dragon Commandos, Manzajan's sniping skills should be top-notch. She should be useful. Oh right, where's your gun? Manzajan looked a little embarrassed. My gun was corroded by the magic liquid spiders during the battle. It's completely damaged and can't be used anymore, so I threw it away. Commandos loved guns as much as their lives, but there was no need to bring a damaged sniper rifle with them when they were on the run. Xia Pingan directly threw the key to the storeroom downstairs to Manzajan. There's a storeroom downstairs. There's a lot of equipment inside, including sniper rifles. Go and choose something useful, then come to room 412 and find me. Yes. Manzajan saluted Xia Pingan again, then took the key and went to choose something. Not long after Xia Pingan returned to room 412, Manzajan came back. She was wearing a ghillie suit and holding a heavy anti-material sniper rifle codenamed Thor, which was used by the army of the Great Fire Country. She was armed to the teeth from head to toe, and looked murderous, as if she was ready to go into battle at any time. Thor's heavy anti-material sniper rifle was famous all over the world. It was one of the top sniper rifles. The caliber of this rifle was 14.5 mm, and could easily kill a target from 2,000 m away. It was the star weapon of the Great Fire Country's army. Anyone who could use this heavy anti-material sniper rifle was a ruthless person. What kind of ammunition does this Thor use? Xia Pingan asked. Usually it uses 14.5 mm anti-material bullets or armor-piercing incendiary bullets. Manzajan answered. Fine, give me 5 armor-piercing incendiary bullets. Manzajan took out 5 armor-piercing incendiary bullets and gave them to Xia Pingan. 5 armor-piercing incendiary bullets were enough to fill a magazine. Okay, it's okay now. You can leave now. You can rest in all the empty rooms in this building. May I ask, when will we take action? Manzajan was eager to have a try. We'll rest in the daytime and take action in the evening. I see. Manzajan nodded. By the way, there's one more thing I want to report to you, sir. What's that? When we evacuated from the city, I found some demon rats were collecting human corpses in the city. They were dragging those corpses somewhere. I don't know what they're doing. Xia Pingan frowned slightly and nodded. Okay, I got it. Manzajan saluted Xia Pingan and then left. After Manzajan left, Xia Pingan used a bit of divine power to summon Sangjia's Jade Awl. With the Jade Awl in hand, Xia Pingan took out 5 MR98 bullet. The Jade Awl that was infused with divine power had an extraordinary ability. At the tip of the Jade Awl, there was a slight but dazzling brilliance flashing. Just by lightly sliding across the bullet head, it could leave a shallow mark. At this time, the Jade Awl in Xia Pingan's hand was like a carving knife. For the first time, Xia Pingan held the Jade Awl and used a full 5 minutes to leave a mysterious flame-like pattern on the bullet head. This mysterious pattern was the raging grass divine text of the word fire. This divine text consumed 2 points of divine power. After processing the pistol bullet, it turned into a rune bullet. Some people called these rune bullets divine rune bullets. They all had the same meaning. This was Xia Pingan's first attempt at making rune bullet. The first one was a bit rusty, but the second one was a lot smoother. The third one was a bit smoother. By the time he processed the fourth one, he was completely familiar with it. In 1 minute, he processed a rune bullet. Xia Pingan processed 5 rune bullets for himself and 5 rune armor-piercing incendiary bullet. After processing 10 bullets, he consumed another 20 points of divine power. In the blink of an eye, the remaining 41 points of divine power were reduced to 20 points. This consumption of divine power was really like flowing water. The morning quickly passed. In the afternoon, the 2 pharmacists were busy together. The secret alchemy room in the mandala finally refined the pills. There were a total of 25 body-strengthening pills, 2 initial spirit pills, and 3 level 1 Shinli Dan. The alchemy room still had half of the ingredients for the initial spirit pill that hadn't been refined. They could only wait until the next time they had devil rats to refine them together. Looking at the pills, Xia Pinggan's spirit was greatly aroused. Killing a devil liquid spider consumed 36 points of divine power and obtained 3 level 1 Shinli Dan. He directly earned 24 points of divine power. This business was not a loss, there was still profit to be made. Chapter 109. After taking 3 LV 1 Shinli Dan and 2 primordial spirit pills, Xia Pinggan's divine energy increased by 70 points. The divine energy that he had just consumed was directly recovered to 90 points. Before he went out, he had 89 points of divine power. Now that he went out, not only did he fully recover his divine power, but he also had an extra point. There were 2 more farm women who could work in the secret mandala. He also had 10 more rune bullets and 25 body strengthening pills. These extra things were a profit. During the daytime, everyone carefully hid in the house of the Special Logistics Office. Nobody went out. Even Xia Pinggan stopped. If they provoked demon rats and huge spiders during the daytime, they would easily attract a lot of demon rats and spiders. Therefore, they had better rest during the daytime. It was very dangerous outside. None of them went out, but within a kilometer of the logistics department, they had experienced 2 dangers that were neither too big nor too small during the day. The first one was at noon. 3 demon rats approached the end of the runway of the Special Logistics Office. After wandering on the grassland for a while, they saw the desolate look of the base. After wandering outside the runway for more than 10 minutes, they tore a big hole in the steel wire fence between the runway and the grassland. 1 demon rat even circled around the runway. Finally, the other 3 demon rats drilled into the woods and left. The appearance of the 3 demon rats scared the 2 soldiers who were on guard outside so much that they broke out in cold sweat. Xia Pinggan saw it with his remote vision and was ready to launch an attack at any time. After the 3 demon rats left, it was past 2 p.m. At that time, a demon fire spider and a shadow monster's demon soul appeared on the road near the base. They were less than 400 meters away from the base. There was also a small town, a water plant, and some buildings near the base of the Special Logistics Department. The buildings in the base were not very conspicuous. The demon fire spider and the phantom monster's demon spirit did not seem to want to come here for a stroll. Instead, they went to the small town nearby. Finally, it was dark outside. Dark clouds covered the moon tonight, and visibility was very low after dark. The soldiers who were preparing to leave had eaten and drank their fill. They also had a lot of food and ammunition on their bodies and wore night vision goggles on their heads. When Xia Pinggan confirmed that there were no monsters around, the 107th Mechanized Infantry Company Commander Wu Guolin led the soldiers and the refugees out of the base quietly. They didn't dare to take the main road. The main road was the evacuation route for the 87th Legion and the citizens of Xinchuan. The chances of encountering monsters along the way were too high. Therefore, they took the small path by the river towards the wilderness. Although it wasn't easy to walk, the chances of encountering monsters were lower. There was another advantage to walking along the river. If they encountered demon fire spiders or demon liquid spiders, they could jump into the river. It was also a way to survive. The magic fire spider was afraid of water, and the magic liquid spider was not afraid of water. However, its attack could be diluted and blocked by the river water. The threat of the magic rat jumping into the water would also be greatly reduced. It was not much more agile than a human. Of course, the soldiers who left already carried 2 rocket launchers with them. They had a total of 10 rockets. Even if they encountered demon fire spiders, they would still be able to fight. The people who left all carried life jackets that they found in the special department. These life jackets could prevent them from drowning if they fell into the water. When they were leaving, Xia Pinggan consumed 10 points of divine power and summoned an elite slave soldier under the surprised gazes of the people who left. With this, Xia Pinggan only had 80 points of divine power left. This is the slave soldier I summoned. If you encounter demon spirits and a small number of magic rats, you can deal with them. This slave soldier will escort you for 6 hours. If you encounter demon fire spiders, it will cover your escape and create an opportunity for you to attack. 6 hours was enough for the people who left to leave the most dangerous area of Xinchuan City. The people who stayed had their reasons to stay, and the people who left also had their reasons to leave. There was no right or wrong, only different choices. As for the rest, their fates were up to the heavens. The few citizens who were preparing to leave thanked Xia Pingan profusely. Wu Guolin led all the soldiers to solemnly salute Xia Pingan. Then, he led the soldiers to escort the citizens away. Soon, the group disappeared into the distant woods. Seeing those people leave, Xia Pingan withdrew his gaze and handed the 514. 5mm armor-piercing incendiary bombs and a bottle to Manzijin. Manzijin took the two things and looked at them in confusion. This is the 14. 5mm armor-piercing incendiary bombs didn't look much different from ordinary armor-piercing incendiary bombs, except that the bullet head had a mysterious pattern that others couldn't understand. As for the bottle that Xia Pingan handed to Manzijin, it was a clean condiment bottle that Xia Pingan had found in the kitchen. The condiment bottle contained 10 body-strengthening pills. Xia Pingan didn't have anything else to store the pills in. He couldn't hold the pills in his hand, so he could only put them in this simple bottle. It was no wonder that Manzijin couldn't recognize it. Those 5 bullets are now rune bullet. 1 bullet can kill a phantom monster, demon spirit or demon rat. The condiment bottle contains body-strengthening pills. 1 body-strengthening pill can increase your chi, blood, and physique without any side effect. However, you can't take too many body-strengthening pills. You can only take 1 in 24 hours. Manzijin held the 5 bullets tightly and looked at them carefully. Finally, she put them away carefully. She had heard of rune bullets before. Many summoners didn't even have them. She didn't expect that Xia Pingan would give her 5 at once. According to legend, only summoners who had mastered hieroglyphs could make rune bullets. Even among summoners, rune bullets were considered a luxury item. Thinking that 1 rune bullet could kill a demon spirit, Manzijin's blood boiled. Her eyes flashed with a strong killing intent. That night, if they hadn't encountered a phantom monster's demon spirit, her comrades wouldn't have died so miserably. Only those who had fought with a demon spirit would know how desperate it was to fight against a demon spirit with ordinary weapons. These rune bullets were the nemesis of demon spirit. Manzijin didn't even think about the body-strengthening pills in the condiment bottle. She opened the bottle and poured out a bullet and swallowed it. Less than half a minute after swallowing the pill, Manzijin's face became rosy. Then, sweat appeared on her forehead. The blood vessels and meridians on the back of her hand were squirming like earthworms. It seemed that there was a wave of energy passing through her blood vessels and meridians. After a full 2 minutes, Manzijin's face returned to normal. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I feel very good." Manzijin licked her lip. "Well, now I'll tell you what we're going to do tonight. Put on the night vision goggles first." Seeing that Manzijin had returned to normal, Xia Pingan took out a map of Xinchuan City. He spread it out on the grass in front of them and began to explain. Manzijin quickly put on the military night vision goggles on her helmet and listened to Xia Pingan's explanation carefully. "We're now in this area, the suburbs in the southeast of Xinchuan City." Xia Pingan pointed to an area on the map. "In the future, we'll be based in the Special Logistics Department. We'll need to return here often to replenish our equipment, eat, or rest. Therefore, in line with the principle that rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows, our operation area will first exclude the area within 3 kilometers of the Special Logistics Department. We'll need to use guerrilla warfare to look for targets in other directions of Xinchuan City." Manzijin nodded. There was nothing wrong with Xia Pingan's arrangement. Our early targets are mainly the lone demon fire spiders or demon liquid spiders near the outskirts of Xinchuan City, as well as no more than 4 demon rat. I'll be responsible for finding the target and commanding the operation, while you'll be responsible for attacking the target with your sniper rifle from 1,500 meters away and attracting the target. I'll be responsible for ambushing the target along the way. We'll use walkie-talkies to communicate, and after you shoot, you can retreat from the safe route. If you find the demon spirit of a phantom monster or if you need to protect yourself, you can use Rune Bullet. Do you understand? Understood. To put it simply, I'll be responsible for attracting the monsters while you'll be responsible for ambushing them. We'll use guerrilla warfare tactics and change locations after each shot. That's it. Is there a problem? Sir, how can you determine our target? I have the ability to see from afar. I can lock onto them from a distance. Manzijin was stunned. She then took a deep breath. I have no problem. As long as we can kill those monsters, I'll listen to all the arrangements. Well, let's move. I've already found the targets. A magic spirit and a magic fire spider, the 2 during the day? Yes, the 2 during the day. I've been keeping an eye on them. They didn't go too far. They're about 5,000 meters away from here. Xia Pingan led the way while Manzijin carried her sniper rifle and followed Xia Pingan. The 2 ran toward the west. More than 10 minutes later, the 2 separated. Manzijin followed Xia Pingan's instructions and ran to the roof of a residential building. She found a sniper's position and began to search for the target. After a while, Xia Pingan's voice came from Manzijin's military walkie-talkie. The 2 targets are about 1,300 meters to your right at 2 o'clock. There's an 8-story building over there. There's a beverage billboard on the upper floor facing you. The magic fire spider is on the roadside under the billboard. You can see the magic spirit of the phantom monster 20 meters to the southeast of the magic fire spider. Have you found the targets? Manzijin quickly found the targets in the light green scope of the sniper rifle. The magic fire spider was lying on the roadside, devouring a pet dog. The magic spirit of the phantom monster was like a maggot floating in the air, wriggling under a tree. Found the targets, Manzijin replied through the walkie-talkie. You have 2 chances to fire. The first shot can be used to kill the magic spirit with a rune bullet. The second shot can be used to shoot the magic fire spider. You can decide when to fire. The magic fire spider has a strong sense of direction. As long as you hit it, it can roughly determine where the bullet came from. So after you fire 2 shots, immediately retreat. If you encounter other monsters along the way, try to avoid them as much as possible. Understood. Manzijin quickly calmed down. She loaded a rune sniper bullet in the gun and locked onto the magic spirit through the scope. After eating the body-strengthening pill, Manzijin found that her current state was unprecedentedly good. After silently counting 2 breaths, Thor's scope had automatically calculated and corrected the bullet's trajectory. Bang! A muffled sound was heard in the silent night. Thor's huge recoil made Manzijin's body, which was lying on the roof, shake. The scene that came through the scope was exciting. Manzijin saw the magic spirit of the phantom monster he was aiming at. In the blink of an eye, it was like a lit candle, burning fiercely. The bullet he fired passed through the magic fire spider's somewhat illusory body and hit the tree behind the magic fire spider. However, the rune flame on the bullet was automatically triggered the moment it passed through the magic fire spider's body. It suddenly burned. In the blink of an eye, the magic fire spider only struggled twice in the flames before it turned into ashes. He finally killed a magic fire spider's magic spirit. Manzijin was so excited that he almost shed tears. This was the first magic fire spider's magic spirit that he killed. The rune bullet was really powerful. For a magic fire spider's magic spirit, it was really a one-shot kill. The magic fire spider was alarmed. Manzijin's second shot was an ordinary antimaterial bullet, and it hit the magic fire spider's head. Seeing that the magic fire spider immediately sensed his location and rushed towards him, Manzajan immediately got up, picked up the sniper rifle, and quickly left the place. When the demon fire spider had just rushed out 300 to 400 meters and turned around from the back of a building, a small and cute black tortoise had already flown over. As if it had been waiting for it, the black tortoise bit the demon fire spider. The magic fire spider couldn't resist at all. The flames on its body and the light in its eyes were instantly extinguished, and its body was covered in a layer of snow-white frost. Xia Pingan rushed out from behind a nearby building and took the magic fire spider into his secret mandala. Then, before the other demons arrived, he quickly retreated and met up with Manzajan. With one more person luring the magic fire spider, Xia Pingan could more easily choose the battlefield and ambush point he wanted. Once he succeeded, he could calmly retreat. Just like a chivalrous hero, his efficiency was higher and he was incomparably cool. The devil fire spider that had once chased Xia Pingan to the point of jumping off a cliff was as weak as a bubble in front of the somewhat cute black tortoise. It burst with a needle. Sure enough, there was always something to subdue it. Xia Pingan had used up 1 rune bullet and 36 divine power to kill a phantom monster's demon spirit and a demon fire spider, earning 60 divine power. Xia Pingan had won his first battle. Half an hour later, Xia Pingan and Manzajan met up at a rendezvous point. The place where the two of them had killed the magic fire spider and the magic fire spider suddenly had 7 or 8 large spiders and more than 20 demon rat. 3 magic fire spiders were scurrying around. After the two of them rested for a while, Xia Pingan locked onto another target 10 kilometers away. That target was simple. It was only a single magic fire spider. An hour later, another gunshot rang out. Xia Pingan calmly took the magic fire spider's corpse into his secret mandala and then returned to the base with Manzajan. Manzajan wanted to continue, but Xia Pingan didn't have much divine power left. He had less than 10 points. He had to wait for Xunli Dan to come out before he could continue to summon Xuanwu. The two of them rested in the base during the day and came out again at night. Chapter 110. The sniper rifle's bullets attracted 4 demonic fire spiders, 1 demonic liquid spider, and 7 demonic rat. This was a sports field of a middle school in the northwest of Xinchuan City. The devil fire spider was hit in the head by the sniper rifle's armor-piercing incendiary bullet. There was also a devil rat whose fur was burnt by the armor-piercing incendiary bullet. Following the direction of the bullet, they rushed into the school and arrived at the playground. What was waiting for them was only a black tortoise and 2 elite slave soldiers who had set up a killing trap. Xuanwu's ability to restrain demonic fire spiders and demonic liquid spiders was too strong. Without a doubt, those demonic fire spiders and demonic liquid spiders didn't even have a chance to resist. Xuanwu's body was like a mass of black water, carrying a powerful and terrifying ice-cold water energy. That ice-cold energy contained the aura of the netherworld. With one attack, it could annihilate all the vitality of those big spiders. As for the elite slave soldiers, when facing the demonic rats, their javelins also flew out. Those demonic rats, who wouldn't die even if they were hit in the head by a sniper rifle, were nailed to the ground by the javelins of the elite slave soldiers in the blink of an eye. Xia Pingan had only discovered a few days ago that the Xuanwu he summoned wasn't static, but could change. He had only explored the tip of the iceberg of Xuanwu's ability. The Xuanwu he summoned with 36 points of divine power was slightly bigger than his palm, and could only attack once before dissipating. The Xuanwu he summoned with 72 points of divine power was twice as big as before, and could attack twice. This time, the Xuanwu he summoned with 180 points of divine power was already as majestic as a small millstone. When the 5 big spiders and 7 demonic rats rushed in, the millstone-sized Xuanwu opened its mouth and spat out a gust of black cold air. The 5 spiders and 7 demon rats were instantly frozen by the black cold air. Their movements slowed down a lot and they moved in slow motion. The elite slave soldiers threw their javelins. Xuanwu's feet didn't touch the ground. He stepped on a few black waves and rushed in front of the spiders. His snake-shaped head opened its mouth again, and 5 black water balls flew out of Xuanwu's mouth and landed on the 5 spiders' bodies. The 5 spiders' bodies were covered in white frost, and their vitality was instantly extinguished. Xuanwu also disappeared. The javelins of the 2 elite slave soldiers were still flying out. In the blink of an eye, the small school sports field was covered in white frost, and there was not a single monster left. Not until then did Xia Pingan, who had just swallowed another 8lv1 Shenli Dan, jump down from the spectator stand and arrive at the battlefield. He then stored all the spoils of war in his space warehouse. In the past few days, Xia Pingan really experienced how cool it was to be a summoner with sufficient divine power. In such a battle, he basically didn't need to participate in it himself. He only needed to stand aside like an onlooker and commander, strategize and decide the outcome of the battle from 100 meters away. Then, he could use his summoned creatures to easily settle everything. The killing traps and ambushes he set up were like an arena, and he was the ruler of the spectators' stand. The fate of those monsters who entered the arena was under his control. Everything was that simple. Because he had sufficient divine power, it was no longer a luxury to summon 2 elite slave soldiers to assist him in the battle by consuming 20 points of divine power. Furthermore, he didn't suffer a loss. Elite slave soldiers were the nemesis of demonic rat. After summoning an elite slave soldier, as long as it was used properly, it could easily kill 4 demonic rats and earn enough. After earning enough, the elite slave soldiers could still do a lot of things before the arrival time, such as spying, scouting, searching, luring monsters, rescuing other people trapped in the city, further expanding the range of their activities, or setting up a deceptive array to lure other monsters away or to the killing array that Xia Pingan had set up. In short, elite slave soldiers were very useful. These days, the small village in Xia Pingan's secret mandala had been boisterous and full of vitality. It started to look like a small village. The number of farmer and farmer women in the village had already exceeded 60, 10 craftsmen and 5 pharmacists. All of them were summoned by Cangjie. The former space warehouse had been full. Now, in the secret mandala, some craftsmen were leading over 20 farmer women to expand the former space warehouse. After the expansion, the former space warehouse was many times larger than before. Xia Pingan didn't know that the space warehouse could be expanded in this way. Xia Pingan had just collected the corpses of the monsters when he heard another gunshot in the distant darkness. Another gunshot. It was Manzijin who fired the gun. These 2 gunshots meant that Manzijin should have dealt with 2 more demon spirits of phantom monsters that had been lured over. Right now, Manzijin had 20 to 30 rune armor-piercing incendiary bombs on him. He could be said to be rich and overbearing. At this time, he would usually avoid or hide when he discovered a monster, and would not open fire. Only when he discovered the demon spirit of a phantom monster would he seize the opportunity to open fire and kill it. Xia Pingan summoned the Black Dragon. He had the Black Dragon follow Manzijin and cover for her. The Black Dragon was very sensitive to the aura of monsters and could act as Manzijin's assistant. It could lead Manzijin to avoid some dangerous areas and be on guard for Manzijin. When necessary, it could also cover for Manzijin's retreat. The cooperation between Manzijin and himself was becoming more and more tacit. The cooperation between the Black Dragon and Manzijin was also becoming smoother and smoother. These days, Xia Pingan's area of activity and battlefield had gradually expanded from the outskirts of Xinchuan City to the edge of the city. At this moment, the surrounding area of the school was a residential area on the edge of the city. Xia Pingan glanced at Manzijin with his remote vision ability. He saw that a kilometer away, Manzijin had put away her gun after firing 2 shots. She was quickly moving to a safe spot outside the city. She didn't continue to fight. At the same time, Manzijin had also set up a time bomb. When the bomb exploded in a few minutes, it would attract nearby monsters and create an opportunity for Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan also quickly left the school's sports field. Under the cover of darkness, he quickly ran through the shadows and alleys on the street with the 2 elite slave soldiers, approaching the city. The plan for tonight was for Manzijin to retreat after the 2 of them completed the ambush. At the same time, they would create a small-scale explosion to attract the attention of the magical creatures. Xia Pingan would then continue to investigate deeper into the city to see where the magical rats that Manzijin had mentioned before had moved the corpses. A lot of people had died in Xinchuan City that night and in the subsequent evacuation process, but at this moment there weren't many corpses on the street. Xia Pingan felt that something bad was going on behind this. In just a few minutes, Xia Pingan had passed through several streets. After running more than a kilometer in the dark, he approached the main road of Xinchuan City. In front of the main road, there were several wrecked tanks, more than 10 devilfire spiders and dozens of devilfire rats wandering around. It wouldn't be easy to pass through. Xia Pingan took the 2 elite slave soldiers to hide in a damaged shop on the side of the street and patiently waited for a while. 2 minutes later, an explosion was heard in the distant darkness. Those devilfire spiders and devilfire rats wandering on the street all turned their heads to look at the distant flames. They were obviously alarmed. Then, without prior consultation, they rushed toward the place where the explosion came from. All of a sudden, the street was empty. Xia Pingan ran through this street. After running for a while, he discovered that there were demonic fire spiders blocking the way. Moreover, there was a large group of them. He immediately ordered an elite slave soldier to leave and make some noise on another street to attract those demonic fire spiders away. After doing this twice, and using the 2 elite slave soldiers to attract monsters, Xia Pingan gradually went deep into Xinchuan City. Using his remote vision, he didn't see many corpses on the surface of Xinchuan City. Since those corpses weren't on the ground, it was most likely that they were underground. As the provincial capital of Xinchuan City, there were several super-large underground shelters. Each shelter could accommodate more than 100,000 people. Xia Pingan planned to take a look at those underground shelters. After arriving at the entrance of a large underground shelter, Xia Pingan suddenly sucked in a mouthful of cold air. The several passages inside the underground shelter were densely packed with devilfire spiders. There were no less than several thousand of them. He simply couldn't enter. However, there were too many monsters here. There was clearly something fishy. Seeing a few demonic fire spiders walking over, seemingly patrolling, Xia Pingan hurriedly retreated from the entrance. Since he couldn't enter through the normal passage, he had to think of another way. A few minutes later, Xia Pingan found an air vent in a building near the fallout shelter. He crawled into the air vent and slowly crawled into the fallout shelter through the air vent. These super-large underground shelters had more than one air vent. Moreover, in order to prevent devilfire rats from entering through the air vent, the size of the air vent was specially designed. It was impossible for devilfire rats to enter through the air vent. Xia Pingan slowly crawled into the shelter through the air vent without making the slightest noise. Inside the ventilation duct, there were isolation bars and anti-intrusion scanners to prevent foreign objects from entering. Fortunately, Xia Pingan had a lot of tools in his space warehouse. When he encountered the metal isolation bars, he directly used the small acetylene cutter used by the special forces to cut them off, trying not to make any noise. As for the scanners in the ventilation duct, Because the entire underground shelter had been destroyed and the monitoring equipment could no longer operate, those scanners naturally could no longer work. Xia Pingan moved forward little by little. Half an hour later, he finally entered the innermost part of the shelter. Through an air vent, he saw the inside of the shelter from top to bottom. Below the shelter, a huge pit had been dug out. Densely packed corpses were piled up in the large pit, wrapped in coils of spider silk like mummies. On the ground, on the walls, and on the hanging spider silk, there were corpses everywhere. There were so many that it was hard to count. As for the magic fire spiders and magic liquid spiders, they were laying their eggs at the bottom of the pit, filling it with dense spider eggs. In just a few days, the devil fire spiders and devil liquid spiders were preparing to use this place as their nest. If those spider eggs hatched completely, it would definitely be a disaster. The corpses wrapped in spider silk like mummies were the food that the devil fire spiders and devil liquid spiders prepared for their children. P.S. 2 updates today. Chapter 111. Xia Pingan hid in the ventilation pipe. Looking at the huge spider nest and countless spider eggs, his heart couldn't help but sink. The space below was really too big. With his current divine power, he could summon fireballs and elite slave soldiers, but they couldn't clean up all the things below. They could only clean up a very, very small part, which wouldn't be of much use. Moreover, they would alert the enemy. Xia Pingan saw that there were 7 or 8 demon fire spiders patrolling inside the spider nest. The Requiem flag could perform a requiem on the corpses here and take the corpses away with the corpse controlling spell, but it wouldn't be of any use, because there were even more large spiders outside. Even if he could control the corpses, he couldn't take them away. Xia Pingan watched for a while, then climbed back along the ventilation pipe and returned to the building. There were 2 more shelters of the same level in the city. After returning to the building, Xia Pingan quietly left the building and continued to explore. After expending 3 elite slave soldiers to lure away some demonic fire spiders and demonic liquid spiders blocking the way, Xia Pingan used the same method to crawl into the other 2 super large shelters. Fortunately, one of the 2 super large underground shelters was occupied by demon rat. There were many demon rats in the shelter, but they weren't as scary as this one. There were also some demon fire spiders in the other underground shelter, but those demon fire spiders didn't lay eggs. They just treated the shelter as an ordinary underground nest. While exploring the second shelter, Xia Pingan passed by the city gymnasium. Xia Pingan's heart skipped a beat. He directly ran to the residential area where he had stayed before. He saw that his pickup truck was still parked in its original parking space. There was only some dust on it. The vehicle wasn't damaged at all. Xia Pingan directly put his pickup truck into the space warehouse. The pickup truck was smaller than a demon fire spider, so it was easy to put it into the space warehouse. Before dawn, Xia Pingan left the city and returned to the rendezvous point with Manzijin. These days, in addition to the base of the Special Logistics Department, the 2 found 2 places outside the city where they could stay. This time, the gathering place was at a bus hub outside the city. The hub station was full of buses. Some buses had been burned to the point that only their shells were left. Some bus windows were broken. The iron gate of the hub station was tilted to one side. As there were vehicles, iron sheets and icy mechanical equipment everywhere, demon rats and huge spiders were not interested in these things. Therefore, fewer demon rats and huge spiders wandered here than in other places. There were several office buildings and vehicle repair workshops in the hub station. The meeting point of the 2 was in a messy conference room above the repair workshop. Seeing Xia Pingan return, the black dragon pounced on him and licked Xia Pingan's palm. Manzijin could only watch enviously. He liked the black dragon very much. The black dragon had become his partner, but unfortunately, he was not a summoner. The black dragon always had a master. Xia Pingon touched the black dragon's head, and the black dragon obediently ran downstairs to stand guard. Sir, did you find anything? Manzijin asked when she saw Xia Pingon's serious expression. The situation is more serious than we thought. I finally know where the monsters hid the corpses. Xia Pingon told Manzijin about what he saw in the underground fallout shelter. Hearing that there might be hundreds of thousands of magic fire spider and magic liquid spider eggs in the spider nest, Manzijin's expression changed. If all the spiders in the spider nest hatch, the consequences will be unimaginable. Wouldn't the entire Xinchuan be completely destroyed? We will never be able to recapture this city in the future, and even many places around Xinchuan City will become the world of those monsters in the future? Manzijin asked. As a soldier, besides revenge, Manzijin had always been thinking about how to recapture the lost Xinchuan City from the hands of those monsters, and then drive them away and eliminate them. I'm afraid so. I think it won't take long for those spider eggs to hatch. If we want to destroy the spider nest now, there are only two ways. The first way is to find other summoners and troops, draw up a plan, and storm into the city. Before the other spiders and demon rats in Xinchuan City can react, we will completely destroy the monster nest. Sir, I'm afraid that's very difficult. Manzijin thought for a moment and shook her head. The people we met these days were all thinking of escaping. There may be some soldiers and a few summoners outside the city, but it will take too long to find and gather those people. Even if we gather them, those people may not listen to us. Xia Pingon also nodded. So now there is only the second way. We have to find powerful bombs and weapons, bring the bombs into the spider nest, and detonate them to destroy the spider nest. At this time, since manpower was limited, they could only rely on weapons. As long as they didn't encounter demonic spirits, powerful firearms were actually very lethal to those monsters. Manzijin pondered for a moment. She was the most qualified to speak on this issue. To destroy the spider nest, the most effective weapons are thermobaric bombs or fuel-air explosive bombs. These two weapons are the two most powerful conventional weapons in the army. If a thermobaric bomb is detonated inside the underground shelter, it can collapse the underground shelter. If a fuel-air explosive bomb is detonated inside, the fuel-air explosive in the fuel-air explosive bomb can use air as fuel. It can produce a high temperature and flame of more than 2,500 degrees for a long time, which can destroy the spider eggs in the spider nest. The 87th Legion should have these two types of bombs, right? Yes. Manzijin nodded. Where can we get them? When I was in Xinchuan, there were two types of bombs in the ammunition depot at the Qingfeng Air Force Base, 60 kilometers north of Xinchuan. However, I don't know what the situation is at the Qingfeng Air Force Base now. Moreover, these two types of bombs are not small. The lightest of them is more than a ton. As Manzijin spoke, she gritted her teeth. If we can find these two bombs, we'll install them in the car. We'll come up with a plan. Sir, you'll lure the spiders away from the nest, and I'll drive the car in and detonate it. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I'll destroy the nest. Xia Pingon glanced at Manzijin. As long as we can find the bombs, I have a way to send them in. Rest first. When it gets dark, we will set off and take a look at the Qingfeng Air Base. Yes, sir. The two of them ate, rested, and waited until it got dark. During the day, two demonic rats went to the courtyard of the hub station and walked around. They didn't find anything, so they left. The two of them waited until it got dark before leaving the base. Under the cover of the night, they began to run towards the Qingfeng Air Base 60 kilometers north of Xinchuan. Driving was too conspicuous and would attract the attention of magical creatures. Therefore, Xia Pingon chose to walk through the wilderness. On the way, they encountered 3 demonic fire spiders and 7 demonic rats, which were killed by the two of them. For Xia Pingon, they had gained a little more. Manzijin hadn't eaten many body-strengthening pills, but her physical strength had improved significantly. When Xia Pingan wasn't in a hurry, she could still barely keep up with Xia Pingan's footstep. After a few small-scale battles and a night of rushing, the two of them finally arrived at the Qingfeng Air Base that Manzijin had mentioned at around 4 o'clock in the morning. The airport was built on an open flat ground in a valley. On both sides of the airport were green mountains with a biting cold aura. 3 demonic fire spiders and more than 10 demonic rats were wandering around the runway of the airport. The fences and barbed wire outside the airport were damaged in many places. A few hangars were damaged. There were a few burnt fighter jets and a transport plane on the tarmac. The command tower, radar station, and other facilities of the airport seemed to have experienced a fire. They were all damaged to varying degrees. Around the airport there were also some barracks and other buildings. The two of them were lying in the wilderness and observing. Some fighter jets must have received orders to fly away in time. Manzijin observed the airport with a night vision device. There were a lot more fighter jets here before. Where is the airport's ammunition depot? Xia Pingan asked. The ammunition depot is built under the airport. I've been here before. Xia Pingan used his remote vision to look around. The underground ammunition warehouse was deeper, and his remote vision could not see through it. However, looking at the extent of the damage to the airport, there was a high possibility that the ammunition warehouse was still intact. Just as Xia Pingan was sizing up the airport, a burst of intense gunfire suddenly came from the direction of the airport's barracks. Da-da-da-da. It was the sound of assault rifles. Xia Pingan and Manzijin glanced at each other as they didn't expect there would be someone here. Hearing the gunfire, the 3 demon fire spiders and more than 10 demon rats wandering around the airport were immediately attracted. They immediately rushed towards the place where the gunfire came from. Xia Pingan made a hand gesture to Manzijin. After that, he also jumped up and rushed towards the place where the gunfire came from. Xia Pingan's speed was needless to say. He soon arrived at the place where the gunfire came from. It was in a barrack. 2 soldiers in military uniforms were shooting at 2 demon rats from the window of a barrack. The 2 demon rats were bleeding all over. Xia Pingan glanced at them with his remote vision and saw that the 2 soldiers were carrying 2 large military backpacks, which were full of canned food and mineral water. One of them was desperately chewing a ham sausage while shooting. It seemed that he was very hungry. F***CK, come on, you be **stars. The other soldier roared. Seeing a demon fire spider rushing towards them, the 2 soldiers changed their faces at once. One of them dropped his assault rifle and turned around to pick up a rocket launcher. He then launched a rocket towards the demon fire spider. The rocket launcher didn't hit the demon fire spider as it dodged away. The rocket launcher hit a truck parked in the distance and directly blew it apart, causing a large flame. As the demonic fire spider approached, the faces of the 2 soldiers were filled with despair. Chapter 112. Xia Pingan arrived at the right time. When that demon fire spider was about to reach the barracks where the 2 soldiers were guarding, Xia Pingan approached from the side. Only by pointing at that demon fire spider, a small and cute Xuanwu came out. The black tortoise flew towards the devil fire spider, and the devil fire spider turned into an ice sculpture covered in white frost. At the same time, Xia Pingan waved his hand to summon 2 elite slave soldiers. The 2 elite slave soldiers then threw out their javelins, nailing the 2 demon rats to the ground the moment they arrived at the front of the fighter's house. The 2 soldiers were already in despair at the sight of the demon fire spider. However, they didn't expect that there would be reinforcements. What a relief! Seeing that the demon fire spider was frozen and the 2 javelins nailed the 2 demon rats to the ground, the 2 soldiers knew that a summoner had arrived. Then, they saw Xia Pingan rushing out. The battle was not over yet. Xia Pingan directly rushed towards the remaining 2 demon fire spiders, while the slave soldiers he summoned rushed towards the other demon rat. 2 fiery spider silks flew over from afar like 2 rapidly burning fuses, trying to entangle Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan leaped up while running like an antelope leaping among thorns. He somersaulted in the air and penetrated through the gap between the 2 fiery spider silks. The moment he landed, a cute Xuanwu was summoned by Xia Pingan. That Xuanwu stepped on black waves like a black fairy and directly flew to the head of the nearest demon fire spider. With one bite, Xuanwu's body turned into black water vapor and covered that demon fire spider. The flames on that demon fire spider instantly disappeared, and its whole body was covered with white frost. Because he didn't know how many of these big spiders he would encounter tonight, Xia Pingan prepared to summon several Xuanwu in the secret mandala with 36 points of divine power. Although this basic version of Xuanwu had only one ability, its advantage was that it wouldn't be wasted. One Xuanwu could eliminate one enemy. At this moment, the elite slave soldiers summoned by Xia Pingan threw 3 rounds of javelins and killed 6 demon rats without any suspense. Seeing that the situation was bad, the remaining 2 demon rats turned around and ran. The 2 elite slave soldiers once again pulled out their javelins and chased after the 2 demon rats. These demon beasts were all intelligent. Knowing that they were no match, they would run away. Seeing that its 2 companions had lost their vital signs, the last demon fire spider also turned around and ran away. How could Xia Pingan let such a fat piece of meat escape? Xia Pingan exerted force on his feet and fiercely rushed forward. His running speed was not slower than that of the fleeing demon fire spider. Instead, he was even a bit faster. Before the last magic fire spider could run 100 meters, Xia Pingan had already caught up to it. After easily dodging a few burning spider webs, a basic version of the mini black tortoise was once again summoned. The battle ended in a split second. The 2 elite slave soldiers summoned by Xia Pingan nailed the last 2 demon rats to the grassland beside the airport runway. The 2 soldiers with weapons and food on their backs had already come out of the barrack. They looked at everything in front of them with shock. They had seen summoners before, but they had never seen such a powerful summoner. The 3 demon fire spiders and the group of demon rats were actually killed by Xia Pingan in just a few moves. The fiery threads spat out by the demon fire spiders fell on the ground and were still burning. The truck that was hit by the rocket was also burning. The flames in the dark and the scattered corpses of demon rats were silently telling the story of the battle that had just taken place here. Looking at the frozen demon fire spider not far away, the 2 soldiers were still a bit frightened. They couldn't help swallowing their saliva. Xia Pingan walked over amidst the burning flames. The flames illuminated Xia Pingan's face, as well as the 87th Division's priest emblem on his chest. "Are you all right, sir?" After seeing Xia Pingan's face and Xia Pingan's priest badge on his chest, the 2 soldiers were excited. They immediately stood at attention and saluted Xia Pingan. Seeing the respected priest of the Legion at such a time, the 2 soldiers were so excited that they almost shed tears. You didn't evacuate either?" "I didn't leave. I've been fighting in Xinchuan City all this time." "Which unit are you from?" "Sir, we're from the Qingfeng Air Force Airport Garrison Camp." The soldier who used the rocket launcher earlier replied. "I'm sure Yunhao, and he's Tao Yang. You 2 didn't evacuate." "Not just the 2 of us. I brought a few other brothers from my class to guard the airport's ammunition depot." "Sure," Yunhao replied. "You have other people?" Xia Pingan was surprised. "Yes, we were guarding this airport's ammunition depot before. We also received the order to evacuate, but we didn't. The airport's ammunition depot is in an underground bunker. As long as we don't get discovered, we can hold on for a long time." "Sure," Yunhao said. "There's a lot of good stuff in the airport's ammunition depot. Many of them were just transported here by the transport plane. Squad leader sure said that if we left, those things might get blown up or destroyed by the monsters. That would be a waste. We have to guard this place." Those things won't get damaged. We can still use them when the troops come back and kill monsters. The squad leader asked everyone's opinion, and everyone is willing to stay here and wait for the troops to come back. Tao Yang said, "There's no more food in the ammunition depot." Tonight, the squad leader brought me out to the barracks to get some food before bringing it back, but we didn't expect to encounter a demon rat. While they were talking, Manzijin, who was carrying a sniper rifle, quickly ran towards them, panting heavily. "Sir, more than 10 demon fire spiders, 7 demon liquid spiders and a large group of demon rats have just heard the noise from the airport. They're approaching the airport. Hurry up, we can enter the underground ammunition depot. There's an emergency passage for personnel to enter and exit. We came out through the emergency passage. Those monsters can't enter." Shi Yunhao said at once. "Manzijin, you and the 2 of them hide in the underground ammunition depot first. I will lead those monsters away. Those monsters have already heard the noise here. If we don't lead them away, a large number of monsters will gather here. The underground ammunition depot might be exposed." "Ah, sir, it's too dangerous," Shi Yunhao said at once. "Carry out the order at once," Xia Pingan said. Without further explanation, he ran out of the barracks with the 2 elite slave soldiers and disappeared in the darkness in the blink of an eye. Seeing Xia Pingan's disappearing figure, Shi Yunhao clenched his teeth. Without saying anything else, he immediately led Manzijin towards the emergency passage to the underground bunker. As soon as Xia Pingan rushed out of the airport, he saw a large group of monsters aggressively rushing towards the airport. He directly rushed over with the 2 elite slave soldiers. The elite slave soldiers threw 2 javelins and killed 2 demon rat. Xia Pingan then released a fireball from afar, burning another demon rat to ashes. The fireball in the darkness was too eye-catching. It was simply telling all the monsters that he was a summoner and wanted to kill him. With this, the eyes of the surrounding monsters all turned red. All the monsters' attention was immediately attracted by Xia Pingan. In the blink of an eye, threads of flame spider silk that could burn Xia Pingan to ashes and highly corrosive sticky spider silk that could melt him into ashes were spat at him. One by one, the demon rats charged at him fearlessly. Summoners were existences that these monsters were afraid of, but as long as they had the upper hand, these monsters would hate the summoner to the bone and would kill him. After successfully luring the monsters, Xia Pingan ran away, rushing towards the mountains in the distance. A large group of monsters followed behind Xia Pingan, aggressively chasing him into the mountains. If there were fewer spiders, Xia Pingan would be able to eat them all in one go. However, the number of monsters attracted was a little too much. It was beyond Xia Pingan's appetite and ability. Therefore, Xia Pingan could only run away first and lure these monsters from the airport to the mountains. It was not until dawn that Xia Pingan got rid of those monsters and returned to the airport. Chapter 113. The airport was still the same as last night. The corpses of those demon rats and demon fire spiders were still there. Of course, Xia Pingan would not waste these spoils of war. Starting from outside the airport, he collected the corpses of 3 demon fire spiders and 11 demon rats and put them all into the space teleportation warehouse. After collecting these demon corpses, Xia Pingan imagined Manzijin's image in his mind. The moment he closed his eyes, he immediately found Manzijin's figure with his long-distance vision ability. At this moment, Manzijin was in a grove of maple trees outside the barracks of the airport. Dressed in a ghillie suit, Manzijin let himself lie down under a pile of maple leaves and used the scope of his sniper rifle to look at the airport. She was waiting for Zhang Tai to come back. Xia Pingan detoured out of the barracks and directly ran towards the grove of maple trees. A few seconds later, the walkie-talkie he carried with him rang. "Sir, I see you." The emergency passage to the underground ammunition depot is in the grove of maple trees over 500 m to the east of you. I'm also in the grove of maple trees. Manzajan's relieved voice sounded from the walkie-talkie. I see you too. I'll be there soon. Xia Pingan replied as he quickly passed through the area between the barracks and the grove of maple trees and came to the grove of maple trees. Manzajan climbed up from a pile of leaves and ran towards Zhang Tai happily with his sniper rifle. Sir, are you okay? I'm fine. The emergency passage to the underground ammunition depot is in the grove, Manzajan said as he ran towards the grove with Xia Pingan. The ground in the grove of maple trees was not very flat. There were some exposed rocks in many places. This place was already outside the military airport and was separated from the airport by an iron wire fence. Ordinary people might not have imagined that there was an emergency passage to the underground ammunition depot in the grove near the barracks of the military airport. This design was indeed ingenious. Manzajan led Xia Pingan to a place with more rocks after walking hundreds of meters in the grove. Manzajan pointed at a huge maple tree in the grove and made a gesture towards it. Xia Pingan looked over and found a surveillance camera cleverly hidden in the tree hole above the huge maple tree. The camera was hidden in the tree hole and only the lens was facing this area of rock. A stone the size of a millstone suddenly opened up from a pile of rocks like a missile silo, revealing a dark hole under the stone. Shi Yunhao's head popped out from under the stone. With an expectant smile on his face, he waved at Xia Pingan and said, "Here." Xia Pingan and Manzajan walked over. There was a passage inside the cave that led underground. The two of them entered the cave and went down about 2 meters. There was a small platform, and beside the small platform was a narrow passage. There was also a monitor that could see the situation outside, allowing people to see the situation outside from here. Shi Yunhao pressed a switch, and the stone closed up again. Not a single ray of light from the outside could come in. There was a dark red light inside the entrance, so it was not completely dark. In the past few days in Xinchuan City, the entire city was pitch black at night, without a single light. Only those monsters were wandering around. Seeing the lights again, it felt really good, causing Xia Pingan's whole body to relax. Shi Yunhao led Xia Pingan towards the narrow passage. The passage spiraled downward. After going more than 20 meters underground, a thick alloy safety door appeared in front of them. Shi Yunhao raised his head and glanced at the surveillance monitor above the safety door. The safety door was opened from the inside. The switches of all the doors here are inside. They can only be opened from the inside. They cannot be opened from the outside. Shi Yunhao explained to Xia Pingan. After entering the safety door closed. There was a stairwell inside. Shi Yunhao opened the elevator door and entered it. There were only 2 buttons in the elevator shaft, one was B1, the other was B2. Shi Yunhao pressed B2, causing the elevator to rapidly descend. After descending for about 100 meters, the light of B2 finally lit up. The elevator door opened. Walking out of the elevator door, they saw another narrow passage that was dozens of meters long with dark red light bulbs. At the end of the passage was another thick safety door with a surveillance monitor. After opening the safety door, the 3 people entered inside. After the safety door closed, the dark red light finally disappeared. The light behind the safety door became brighter. The moment Xia Pingan entered, a lot of soldiers immediately swarmed towards him and surrounded Xia Pingan. They all looked at him with excited eyes. "Sir, is it our troops?" "Sir, how's Xinchuan City?" "Sir, is the 87th Legion preparing to reopen the Air Force airport?" "Sir." Xia Pingan was a priest of the Legion. He was not a military officer. He only enjoyed the treatment of a military officer. Strictly speaking, it was inappropriate to call him Sir. In the past, this position was addressed as Lord Priest. However, there was no such title anymore. These soldiers were used to calling people sir. When they saw someone with a higher position than them, they would either address him as sir or general. Since Xia Pingan was not a general, many of them were used to calling him sir. This seemed to be more intimate. These soldiers were too excited. They did not expect to see the priest of the 87th Legion here. Previously, when Shi Yunhao and Tao Yang said that they saw Xia Pingan outside, these soldiers did not believe it. Now that they saw him in person, they were indescribably excited. What are you all doing? It's such a mess. This is not a market. We are soldiers. Shi Yunhao's face turned serious. He immediately shouted, 87th Legion, Qingfeng Air Force Airport Garrison Camp, Ammunition Depot Guard Squad, assemble. Upon hearing this, the warriors who had just gathered in a group immediately quivered and gathered in front of Xia Pingan. They stood in a neat row with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. At ease. Attention. Count off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 9 people standing in a row began to roar one after another. Shi Yunhao was the one who reported the number 10. After shouting 10, Shi Yunhao turned around, stood at attention, and saluted Xia Pingan. Then, he said loudly, the 87th Legion's Qingfeng Air Force Airport Garrison Camp's Ammunition Depot Guard Squad has 10 people on standby and 10 people on standby. No one is absent. Please inspect them, sir. Xia Pingan took a deep breath and nodded as he looked at the sincere and fervent faces and the eyes that flickered with the light of hope. At ease, the 10 people's movements were neat and uniform as they stood in front of Xia Pingan. Everyone asked me a lot of questions just now. I will answer your questions first. Xia Pingan stood in front of all the soldiers in the guard squad and said, the 87th Legion has been scattered. The situation is probably very bad now. I have been fighting those invading creatures in Xinchuan for the past few days. I have been trying to contact the 87th Legion, but I haven't been able to. Judging from the situation and signs, the demonic spirit wave that appeared that night didn't just appear in Izhou province. It might be nationwide or even global. I haven't seen any aircraft or drones in Xinchuan for the past few days. Therefore, my preliminary judgment is that the Great Fire Country is probably in a state of anarchy and is very chaotic. The soldiers standing in a row immediately tensed up. Many of them looked at each other in dismay. Some of them even clenched their teeth tightly. Because the people standing in front of me are the strongest and bravest soldiers of the Great Fire Country. You are a group of soldiers who are still guarding the ammunition depot in a desperate situation, guarding the hope of the 87th Legion to counterattack. Therefore, I feel that I can't lie to you. I have to tell you the actual situation outside. I'm not here to represent the Legion or anyone else. I'm only here to represent myself. Xia Pingan's gaze swept across the faces of the soldiers. Your defense here is meaningful. If you didn't defend this place, this ammunition depot might not exist anymore. The reason I'm here is to find powerful weapons. Those magic fire spiders and magic liquid spiders had built a huge nest in the largest underground shelter in Xinchuan City. They laid a lot of eggs in the nest, hundreds of thousands of them. Moreover, they had stored the corpses of many brothers of the 87th Regiment as well as the corpses of the dead Xinchuan citizens in the nest. They wanted to use those corpses as food for the eggs to hatch. I need bombs. The more powerful the bombs, the better. I want to bring the bombs back to Xinchuan City and use them to destroy those monster nests. I want those monsters to accompany our brothers of the 87th Legion and the fallen Xinchuan citizens. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, the soldiers standing in front of him all clenched their fists and gnashed their teeth. Their faces became resolute. The situation outside made their hearts sink to the bottom of the valley. However, after knowing that the bombs in the ammunition depot they were guarding could destroy the monster nests in Xinchuan City, the blood in their hearts surged. As long as the things in the ammunition depot were effective and could turn those monsters into ashes, they wouldn't have stayed here in vain. Their perseverance here would have meaning and value. Sir, we don't have a lot of other things in the ammunition depot, but we definitely have enough bombs of all kinds. We have a batch of the latest thermobaric bombs, and thermite bombs stored here. We also have a lot of other weapons and bombs. Shi Yunhao said loudly. How many do we have? Xia Pingan asked. If it's only thermobaric bombs, and thermite bombs, the amount of ammunition stored in this depot is enough to blow up Xinchuan City into ruins. Chapter 114. The entire military airport and this underground ammunition depot are covered with granite. The outer layer of this ammunition depot is several meters thick with reinforced concrete. Therefore, this place is very firm and could resist almost any attack. Even sandworms could not drill in. Shi Yunhao explained as he guided Xia Pingan to walk in the ammunition depot. The other soldiers also followed him and guided Xia Pingan to visit this place. This huge ammunition depot was the reason why all the soldiers stationed here were willing to stay. The ammunition depot was very large. Like a modern warehouse, it was divided into several sections. The roads in the ammunition depot could even allow 2 vehicles to drive in side by side. Shi Yunhao turned on the lighting switch of the ammunition depot with a "pa" sound, causing all the lights in the ammunition depot to light up one after another. Inside the storerooms, there were piles of unopened ammunition, weapons, and bombs piled up like mountains. Just looking at them was enough to shock anyone. Shi Yunhao guided Xia Pingan to visit one warehouse after another. This warehouse contains heat-tracking missiles. This warehouse contains air-to-air missiles and some anti-radiation missiles. This warehouse contains airdropped Mother Sun bombs. Mother Sun bombs are very effective against demon rat. However, they might also hurt people. Therefore, they can only be used in a deserted area. This warehouse is filled with some military supplies that have just arrived. Many of them have just arrived and have yet to be distributed to the troops. As he spoke, Shi Yunhao brought Xia Pingan to a warehouse. He opened up an ammunition box that contained weapons. Inside the ammunition box was something that looked like an anti-tank gun, a large and thick barrel. There were also several heavy ammunition that had tail fins attached to it. This is an individual fuel-air explosive, the most powerful weapon that could be mastered by individual soldiers. Besides being a bit heavy, this thing is too powerful. It was first used by the Huaxia country's army. Many of them were imported from the Fire country. However, they didn't have the time to popularize it in the army. Individual fuel-air explosive. Xia Pingan picked up the thing in the ammunition box. It was indeed a bit heavy. An individual fuel-air explosive and a can-sized launcher weighed about 40 to 50 kilograms. Of course, this was for ordinary people. As long as they were strong enough, they would have no problem carrying this thing. If we could carry one of these things out, we could kill those demon fire spiders one by one. Tao Yang said. If we carry this thing out, how can we carry food back? This thing is too heavy. This thing is suitable for ambushes or defense. It's too powerful against those hiding in the houses. If we shoot it with our eyes closed, a small building will be destroyed. Our soldiers have good physical strength, but it's difficult for them to carry this thing for a long period of time. Each squad has one set and takes turns to carry it. A soldier added. Xia Pingan nodded. He thought that he should be able to store a few thousand of these things in his spatial warehouse. Even if he ran out of divine power in the future, it would be fun to fight those demon fire spiders with these things. Everyone continued to look at the ammunition storehouse at the back. When the door of one of the ammunition storehouses was pushed open, they saw an entire storehouse full of weapons. These weapons were about as tall as a person and as thick as a bucket. They were painted dark green and filled with killing intent. These are the airdropped heavy fuel air explosive. There are more than 3,000 of them in this warehouse. The ones in the back are airdropped thermite incendiary bombs. There are more than 5,000 of them. The warehouse next to it is filled with thermobaric bombs. There are more than 1,000 of them. These things can only be transported out by vehicles. Shi Yunhao said to Xia Pingan, the entrance of this ammunition warehouse was invaded by demon fire spiders and demon rats a few days ago. I ordered the entrance to be blown up, but we have engineering equipment such as bulldozers, excavators, and trucks in the warehouse. We can dig up the collapsed entrance again. It will take about a week or so. Yes, after digging up the entrance, we will drive these things to Xinchuan. Let's go all out. A soldier said. Yes, as long as we can kill those demons, we will go all out. We will definitely send these bombs to Xinchuan and blow up the nest of those spiders. Let those spiders be buried with our brothers who sacrificed their lives. Those soldiers were all fired up. Yes, we can't let the bodies of our brothers who sacrificed their lives be ruined by those demons. Although it was only a few dozen kilometers from here to Xinchuan, driving there was tantamount to breaking through the gates of hell. However, those soldiers were not afraid. They were all fired up. There is no need to dig up the entrance again. I have a way to get these things out. Xia Pingan said. These big guys easily weigh a few tons. How can we get them out? Shi Yunhao asked doubtfully. The surrounding soldiers also looked at Xia Pingan in confusion. Xia Pingan did not speak again. He just put his hand on the pile of fuel-air explosives in front of him. With a thought, the fuel-air explosives suddenly disappeared in front of everyone, just like magic. Ah, where are the fuel-air explosives? Why are they gone? A group of people stared at Xia Pingan, dumbfounded. Shi Yunhao even walked around the empty place, trying to confirm if it was some kind of trick. In fact, it was not a secret that a summoner possessed a spatial equipment. It was not even considered news. There was more than one way for a summoner to master a spatial equipment. Apart from summoners like Xia Pingan, who could transform the secret mandala after successfully fusing with Song Jie's realm pearl, summoners also had a spatial equipment, but it was needless to say how precious those spatial equipment were. These were all things that had existed since ancient times. However, there were not many summoners who could transform a spatial warehouse and spatial equipment into a spatial equipment in the secret mandala. Generally, they were kept secret and rarely displayed in front of ordinary people. Therefore, most people might not have the opportunity to see a summoner use a spatial equipment in their lifetime. Previously, when Xia Pingan and Manzijin acted together, they saw some of the demon rats and demon fire spiders disappear one by one. In fact, Manzijin had more or less guessed something, but she did not say it. Now, Xia Pingan publicly displayed his ability. At this time, if he still hid it, he would not be able to take these things away. Therefore, Xia Pingan simply revealed his trump card. Needless to say, the surrounding soldiers were shocked. However, Manzijin revealed an expression of, as expected. This, the legendary spatial equipment of a summoner? Shi Yunhao swallowed his saliva and asked intermittently. As a group of soldiers who were responsible for guarding the warehouse, they were more shocked by space teleportation equipment. If there were more space teleportation equipment, they would not need to guard the warehouse anymore. They could take the warehouse along with them when they retreated. That was too awesome. Xia Pingan nodded. I still have a lot of ingredients in my spatial equipment. Today, I will treat you all to a drink and a hot pot. After being stunned for a second, the soldiers cheered at once. The hot pot was carried out in a completely empty warehouse that covered an area of 5 to 6 acres. The soldiers stationed in the warehouse usually ate and moved around here. In this empty warehouse, the soldiers entertained themselves. They even modified it into a basketball court and a bowling alley. The soldiers drove 2 forklifts in and raised the flippers of the forklifts to the height of the basketball hoop. They welded 2 iron rings on the top of the forklifts to form a basketball hoop. The ones used for bowling were the shells of anti-aircraft guns. Usually, everyone would play basketball here when they had nothing to do. They would also eat here to entertain themselves. The tables and chairs were the empty ammunition boxes. As for what Xia Pingan said about eating hot pot and not having hot pot, it was too simple. The soldiers found a few brass shells from the howitzers, sawed open the shells, and washed them clean. Then they had hot pot, and it was made of brass. The generator room in the underground ammunition warehouse stored thousands of tons of diesel oil, so there was no shortage of energy. After adding water to the shells, they put them on the electric stove. Then, the hot pot could be cooked. This kind of hot pot could be regarded as a fresh start. A few days ago, Xia Pingan carried out guerrilla warfare in Xinchuan City. He took the opportunity to sweep several suburban supermarkets. Therefore, his secret warehouse was now filled with all kinds of food, all kinds of supplies, all kinds of things, all kinds of drinks, and all kinds of drink. Xia Pingan waved his hand. Boxes of all kinds of beer, liquor, mineral water, all kinds of canned vegetables and meat that could be cooked immediately appeared in the warehouse. They were piled up like a small mountain. Xia Pingan picked up a bottle of wine and said to everyone, "No matter how many people we have, we will fight those monsters to the end. Long live the 87th Legion. This bottle of wine is a toast to everyone. Cheers." After that, Xia Pingan finished the bottle of wine in one gulp. Long live the 87th Legion. Cheers. All the soldiers raised the bottle of wine and roared. They drank together. This time, the hot pot was incomparably enthusiastic. Shi Yunhao organized the soldiers in the class to take turns toasting Xia Pingan. They wanted to make Xia Pingan drunk, but they didn't expect that in the end, it was Xia Pingan who made them all drunk. His body was already close to the inhuman level. That little bit of alcohol, for Xia Pingan, was completely child's play. Even Manzijin was drunk. She held a soldier and danced, causing the others to laugh. When everyone was drunk to the point of falling to the ground, Xia Pingan was the only one who was sober. Looking at the 11 people who were lying on the ground, Xia Pingan lifted them up one by one from the ground of the warehouse and sent them back to their sleeping quarters. The soldiers stationed here slept in a small empty warehouse. Everyone was sleeping on the floor and sleeping in sleeping bag. Everyone's nerves had been tense these days. Today was a good day to relax. After doing all this, Xia Pingan returned to his room and sat down cross-legged. He took out the realm beads he had obtained yesterday and today. He had obtained 2 realm beads a few days ago. One was from the Swearin realm bead and the other was from the Cho clan. He had no use for those 2 realm beads, so he had kept them. However, on the way here yesterday, Xia Pingan's luck had returned. After a few battles, Xia Pingan had obtained 2 usable realm bead. Tomorrow was November 11th, the 15th of the lunar calendar. If he fused with the realm beads today, he would be able to enjoy the benefits of an explosive increase in divine power tomorrow. Xia Pingan took out the first realm bead. There were only 3 words on it, Li Guizhen. After dripping a drop of blood on it, Xia Pingan was soon wrapped in a cocoon of light and entered the realm beads world. Chapter 115. Li Guizhen, this is the tiger you drew? It's ridiculous. You want to sell this kind of tiger for money? Are you bullying us because we have never seen a tiger before? Exactly, how is this a tiger? It doesn't look like one at all. It doesn't look majestic at all. It looks like a dog. As soon as Xia Pingan opened his eyes, he saw that he was on the street. In front of him, there was a table with a drawing paper on it. There was a tiger drawn on the paper, and he was holding a pen in his hand. Many people beside him were pointing at him and whispering. Xia Pingan looked behind him. There was a shelf behind him. There were 2 paintings hanging on the shelf. The paintings were of cattle. The cattle were drawn very well. It was very lifelike. Xia Pingan understood at a glance that he was currently selling paintings on the street. Li Guizhen grew up in the countryside. He liked painting. There were a lot of cattle in the countryside. Li Guizhen had seen a lot of them. Therefore, Li Guizhen learned to draw cattle. After drawing a lot of cattle, Li Guizhen gradually became famous in the countryside. He became a painter and usually came to Tiantai City to sell his paintings. It was considered a way to make a living. At this moment, Li Guizhen was still young. He was only famous in the countryside of Jiangxi province. He wasn't as famous as he was later. Liang Taizu couldn't help but invite him to the palace to chat and ask him questions. Xia Pingan immediately understood his current situation. Right in front of the painting stall, a man in satin who looked like a country squire pointed at the tiger on the paper and glared at Xia Pingan with dissatisfaction. He pointed at the painting and said, "Your tiger looks like a dead one. Those who don't know might think it's a dog. I've already told you that I'm going to buy this painting and hang it up. How can I show it to others with your painting? You're even asking for 100 yuan? I won't give you any money." The country gentleman snorted coldly and left. Xia Pingan looked at the tiger on the painting in front of him. It didn't look like a tiger. It didn't have the spirit of a tiger. It was soft. Li Guizhen had probably seen a tiger skin before. That's why he could draw this kind of painting. At a nearby painting stall, an artist with a goatee who specialized in selling landscape paintings came over. He looked at the tiger painting in front of Xia Pingan and suddenly sneered. He raised his goatee proudly and said to Xia Pingan, "Boy, I guess you haven't even seen a live tiger before. You actually dare to sell tiger paintings. Do you know that people who buy paintings of tigers will hang them in the living room or study room for people to admire them? You're from the countryside. You'd better go back to your painting of cows." The people around him burst out laughing. As his business failed, Xia Pingan resisted the impulse to draw another fierce tiger on the spot. Instead, he directly tore that painting into pieces and started to pack up. As he packed up the painting stall, Xia Pingan had a question. If he could draw a vivid fierce tiger and completely change the historical track of Li Guizhen, would he be considered to have successfully integrated with this realm bead? After thinking about it for a short while, Xia Pingan came to a conclusion. Li Guizhen's painting of tigers was a historical illusion that inspired numerous people. Without Li Guizhen's later experiences, this illusion would not exist. Therefore, Li Guizhen who could draw tigers would become ordinary. What was the difference between him and other artists who could draw fierce tigers? After thinking for a short while, Xia Pingan felt that the fierce tiger that he had drawn was not good enough for Li Guizhen to leave his name in history. He might fail to integrate with this realm bead. Therefore, he treated the process of integrating with this realm bead as a rare opportunity to pay homage to Li Guizhen and improve his painting ability. Xia Pingan wanted to see how far he could improve his painting skills according to Li Guizhen's method. In this world, especially in China, when children talked about painting, they would often think of the story of Leonardo da Vinci's drawing of eggs and regarded Leonardo da Vinci as the idol of painters. Li Guizhen was a strange name to many people. What many people didn't know was that 500 years before Leonardo da Vinci, there was a young man called Li Guizhen during the 5 dynasties of China. He had put in much more effort to learn how to draw than Leonardo da Vinci's drawing of eggs. That was the true spirit of craftsmen and masters. Xia Pingan didn't know where Li Guizhen lived. Therefore, he could only ask people on the way back to his home. Li Guizhen must have lost his mind. He even forgot where his home is. Someone who knew Li Guizhen muttered in astonishment when he saw Li Guizhen asking about his home. I heard that Liguasian made a fool of himself at the fair today. He was so embarrassed that it's normal for him to lose his soul. Liguasian's home was in the countryside outside Tiantai City. It wasn't too rich, but it wasn't too poor either. His parents were still alive. They had over 100 mu of land and a few cows. He had gained some fame as a painter in the countryside over the years, so he had some wealth. After returning home, Xia Pingan searched Liguasian's bedroom and found a box of money that Liguasian had accumulated over the years. For the next 2 days, Xia Pingan didn't go anywhere. He waited at home and prepared the things he needed to enter the mountains. Liguasian's parents knew that Liguasian had been ridiculed, so they comforted Liguasian with a few words. On the 15th day of the month, there was a fair in the city. The entire Tiantai city was bustling with noise and excitement. People from all around rushed to the city to participate in the fair. Xia Pingan brought some money and the things he needed to enter the mountains and return to the city. Today, the flow of people in the city was several times more than usual. The streets were bustling with noise and excitement. Young women, and businessmen all came. Xia Pingan walked around the city for a while before arriving at the market where mountain goods were sold. The people selling mountain goods here were all farmers and hunters from the mountains. Xia Pingan walked around the market and found that an old hunter's business was very good. The old hunter was in his 50s. He was strong and energetic. He carried a kitchen knife on his back and looked simple and honest. He sold a few leopard skins, 2 wolf skins, a few golden pheasants, and 2 rabbits. The golden pheasants and rabbits were kept in 2 cages. The other leather goods were directly placed on the ground for sale. Because the old hunter's items were always cheaper than the others, many people came to buy from him. Moreover, they all seemed to be acquaintances, so they didn't bargain much. Some of the other people's business had just started, but the old hunter's items were all sold out. After selling his goods, the old hunter packed up and went to a nearby shop to buy some salt, a jug of wine, and some cloth. Then he prepared to go back. "Uncle, please." Xia Pingan walked out from the side of the street and stopped in front of the old hunter. He bowed to the old hunter. "What can I do for you, little brother?" The old hunter hung the wine gourd on his waist and asked. Xia Pingan smiled. "I saw Uncle selling things on the street just now. You sold them faster than others, ha ha." The hunter uncle laughed heartily. "Every item costs a little less. We're all old customers, so there's no need to be so calculative. With this little effort I can go up the mountain to hunt a leopard and make up for everything. Little brother, if there's anything you want, I can leave it for you the next time I hunt." Uncle is a forthright person. "Do you know where there are tigers in the nearby mountains?" "Of course there are in Mt. Dumb Insect. Why do you ask?" The old hunter was curious. "To be honest, I want to go into the mountain to see what the tiger looks like. I want to observe it closely. I wonder if Uncle can take me into the mountain to have a look. Just treat it as me hiring Uncle to take me into the mountain. I'll give you a sum of money." The old hunter's face suddenly became serious. "Don't joke with me, little brother. That dumb insect might kill you if you see it. Are you tired of living?" "Uncle, don't worry, I'm not tired of living. I just want to see what the tiger looks like. I'm a painter, but the tiger I draw doesn't look like a real one. People always laugh at me, so I want to see it." "Little brother, you're a painter." The old hunter's face suddenly showed a bit of respect for an intellectual. "This is my drawing of a buffalo. I'll give it to you as a gift." Xia Pingan took out a framed drawing of a buffalo and gave it to the old hunter. The old hunter wiped his hands on his clothes and took the drawing. He opened it curiously and then praised. Not bad, this old buffalo is really good. Little brother, you're good at drawing, but it's still too dangerous to go into the mountain to see the tiger. I'll be harming you if I take you there." "Uncle, listen to me, I don't want to go in front of the tiger. I'm not that brave. I just want to see the tiger in the mountain. I just want to build a wooden hut on the tree. I'll look at the tiger from the hut and make something to attract the tiger. If the tiger can't come up to the hut, I won't be in danger." The old hunter's expression changed. He touched his bearded chin and thought for a while. Build a hut on the tree and look at the tiger from the tree. That's fine. But little brother, are you sure you want to go? Xia Pingan nodded with determination. I've made up my mind. I must go. Okay, then follow me, I'll take you there, the old hunter said straightforwardly. Only 3 days later, a small treehouse appeared on a mountain called Immortal Peak, which was more than 50 li away from Tiantai City. The treehouse was built on the crown of a tall Phoebe more than 10 meters above the ground. The trunk of the Phoebe was thick and straight. Tigers couldn't climb up. Tigers often appeared near Immortal Peak. The old hunter and his son worked together with Xia Pingan to find a place for Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan gave the hunter uncle a sum of money and asked the hunter uncle to send him food and ink every 3 days. If he hunted a pheasant or hare, he could also send it over and treat it as selling it to him. Here, he used pheasants and hares to lure the tiger. The old hunter agreed at once. Xia Pingan's request was easy. Moreover, Xia Pingan didn't want them to work for nothing. On the day Xia Pingan lived in the treehouse, the old hunter caught a pheasant and tied it to a nearby tree. He then sprinkled some of its blood nearby, saying that it would attract the tiger. After that, Xia Pingan waited for the tiger on the tree. Chapter 116. The pheasant was tied to another tree more than 30 meters away from Xia Pingan's treehouse. It was surrounded by grassland, and nothing could block Xia Pingan's sight. The pheasant chirped and paced back and forth on the grassland uneasily. It even flapped its wings, wanting to fly away. After the old hunter and his son left, the forest became noisy and quiet. Xia Pingan sat cross-legged in the treehouse with his eyes closed, waiting patiently. He really treated himself as a person who had returned to the origin. He had made up his mind to train his painting skills to the extreme. Back then, Li Guozhen had sacrificed so much to draw the tiger. The determination he had made was truly amazing. Tigers weren't good at climbing trees, but in this forest, there were too many poisonous insects and ferocious beasts that could climb trees. Leopards could climb trees, poisonous snakes could climb trees, and poisonous insects could climb trees. Settling down in this forest to watch tigers in this environment was equivalent to disregarding life and death. This spirit was the foundation of a person's success. There were a few biscuits and 2 water bottles in the treehouse. These were Xia Pingan's food. There was a clear stream nearby, which could solve the water problem. If he wanted to relieve himself, he could only come down from the tree and go to the nearby grassland to relieve himself. Compared to the Chou clan, this life was not much different. He had completely become a primitive man. For the first 2 days, the pheasant was chirping, and Xia Pingan did not even see a single hair of the tiger. On the morning of the 3rd day, Xia Pingan was sitting in the treehouse with concentration. Suddenly, he felt that the forest outside suddenly became quiet. A dense killing intent faintly reverberated in the forest. The pheasant that was chirping on the grassland suddenly stopped chirping. Xia Pingan suddenly opened his eyes. On a tree not far away, a flock of birds suddenly flew up in fright. The grass shook, and with a tiger's roar, an incomparably majestic white tiger rushed down from the nearby hillside. It was not an exaggeration to say that a tiger followed the wind with its imposing manner. It pounced down with a gust of fierce wind. The pheasant was so scared that it curled up into a ball. When it saw the tiger pouncing over, it flapped its wings and wanted to fly away. However, just as the pheasant jumped up, the tiger leaped into the air and opened its bloody mouth. It directly bit down and pounced down. That ferocious tiger was fierce and domineering, carrying with it a wild and boundless life force and the aura of the king of beasts. Its eyes were filled with killing intent, and its movements were firm and powerful. Every pore on its body exuded a bloody, masculine, and powerful aura that was difficult to describe. It was not a tiger kept in a zoo, nor was it a tiger kept in a cage. It was a living beast that could tear apart all prey and enemies at any time. When you see that tiger, you will know what it means to have the temperament of a true king of beasts. After the tiger pounced on the pheasant, it immediately got into the grass and disappeared. However, the moment when it pounced on the pheasant had been deeply imprinted in Xia Pingan's mind. Xia Pingan felt that a certain nerve in the depths of his heart had been touched, but he was unable to say what he wanted to say. In the end, he only took out a drawing paper and a pen, grasping the feeling in his heart in the wooden house. He drew several pictures in a row, wanting to show that feeling on paper. However, no matter how he drew, Xia Pingan always felt that the tiger he drew could not express that feeling in his heart. It always lacked something. Xia Pingan used to think that his paintings were good enough. However, after drawing a few pictures of tigers, he realized that the tiger he drew still lacked something. That something might be what Li Guizhen was looking for. The next day, the old hunter and his son came again. They brought Xia Pingan a rabbit and some pancakes. The rabbit was still tied near the tree. The old hunter and his son sprinkled some sheep's blood near the tree. That night, a wild wolf came. Xia Pingan threw a stone from the tree and shouted. Finally, the wolf was scared away. The next day, the tiger came again and quickly took the rabbit away. Xia Pingan memorized every movement of the tiger as it hunted. He kept drawing on the paper over and over again, trying to draw out the little thing that touched his heart. 2 days later, the old hunter and his son came again. Xia Pingan asked the old hunter and his son to bring him some ink and paper. He had used up all the ink and paper he brought. Xia Pingan had been drawing the tiger every day. He was learning from the tiger and pondering over the ferocious tiger. Even when he was dreaming or sleeping, he was thinking about the ferocious tiger's every move as it pounced on its prey. He was completely immersed in that state. He had completely forgotten that he was in the world inside the realm pearl. He had completely forgotten that he was in the realm pearl. He had completely forgotten that he was in the realm pearl. He had completely forgotten that he was in the realm pearl. He had completely forgotten that he was in the realm pearl. What shocked Xia Pingan was not only the image of the fierce tiger, but also the spirit of the king of beasts and the most primitive and surging strength of beasts in all living creatures. It was a kind of rhyme, a kind of comprehension, a kind of Tao which was hard to put into words. Xia Pingan was completely immersed in it. The old hunter and his son would send something to Xia Pingan every 3 or 4 days. They would also check on Xia Pingan. Every time they came, they would see that Xia Pingan was either crazy or silent. In the beginning, the old hunter and his son felt that Xia Pingan's tiger drawings were more and more similar. Later on, when they saw the things that Xia Pingan drew, the old hunter and his son could not understand them at all, because the things that Xia Pingan drew became stranger and stranger. There were all kinds of messy lines. Sometimes there were mountains and flowing cloud. Sometimes there were swaying leaves or flowing streams. Sometimes there were even stripes on the tiger's body, a fierce light in its eyes, sunrise and sunset. The old hunter and his son even suspected that Xia Pingan was crazy. Xia Pingan stayed in the treehouse for 2 years. On this day, the old hunter and his son came to deliver something to Xia Pingan again. Then, the old hunter suddenly said, "Oh right, when I came out today, I heard that a few hunters in the neighboring village hunted a tiger on another mountain and are about to sell it." Xia Pingan heard this and his heart skipped a beat. "Uncle, can you take me to see it? I want to buy that tiger." "Ah, you're leaving here. I'm going down the mountain temporarily. It's not cheap to buy a whole tiger. The most expensive part of that tiger is its skin, then its bones, and then its meat. When the old hunter said that it was not cheap, it was actually only relative to the people of this era. For Xia Pingan, the price of these wild beasts that were hunted in this era was not that expensive. If it was not a rare breed like the white tiger, a hunting tiger with a few holes or arrow holes on its body and most of its fur ruined was not much more valuable than a live cow. Of course, if there was a complete tiger skin that was not damaged, the price would be different. If one wanted a complete tiger skin, the difficulty of hunting a tiger would increase by more than 10 times, and the price of the tiger skin would be higher. It's okay, I still have some savings. I should be able to buy it. Seeing Xia Pingan being so straightforward, the old hunter nodded. Okay, I'll take you to ask how much it costs. Thank you, uncle. Xia Pingan followed the old hunter down the mountain. It didn't take him much effort to buy the tiger that was hunted. After buying the tiger, Xia Pingan stayed at the old hunter's house for a few days. During these days, Xia Pingan personally dissected the tiger bit by bit. After dissecting the tiger, Xia Pingan gave the tiger meat to the old hunter, and took the tiger bone and tiger skin back up the mountain. Xia Pingan continued to draw in the treehouse. This time, he drew a skinless tiger, and only the muscles on the tiger's body. Just the muscles alone took him half a year to draw. After that, he began to piece the tiger's bones together bit by bit, and began to draw tigers with only bones on the painting. During this period, Xia Pingan did not stop observing the tigers on the mountain. After drawing the bones for a year, Xia Pingan came down from the tree wearing the tiger skin. He dressed himself up as a tiger, and every day, he would walk with his hands and feet like a tiger, fluttering, jumping, and imitating the tiger's every move. In this way, more than a year passed unknowingly. After more than a year, Xia Pingan took off the tiger's skin and started to practice martial arts in the forest. He was like a dragon leaping and a tiger leaping in the forest, walking as if he was flying. Xia Pingan began to draw again. He used stones, branches, trees on the ground, in the flowing water, in his mind, and in the sky. He drew whatever he saw. It was no longer limited to tigers. Everything in the world was in his painting. This day, Xia Pingan was drinking water by the stream wearing the tiger skin. When he was drinking water, the bushes beside him moved. A 2-meter-long tiger suddenly drilled out of the bushes, as if it did not see Xia Pingan. It also came to Xia Pingan's side to drink water. Xia Pingan turned his head to look at the tiger, and the tiger also turned its head to look at him. The tiger bared its teeth and growled at Xia Pingan in a low voice. Xia Pingan stood up and kicked the tiger, causing it to flip over. The ferocious tiger roared and pounced over. Xia Pingan stretched out his hand and grabbed the skin of the ferocious tiger's neck as if he was pinching a cat. Then, he threw the tiger away. Xia Pingan stared at the tiger. The tiger was thrown to the ground a few meters away. It did not dare to look at Xia Pingan. Its body lay on the ground, and it slowly retreated. Then, it rolled over and exposed its belly to Xia Pingan. At this moment, the silver bottle in Xia Pingan's mind broke, and the sun shone brightly. Xia Pingan laughed heartily and went down the mountain. When he passed by a county yamen at the foot of the mountain, he saw the yamen runners building a staircase to clean up the bird droppings on the yamen gate. They complained as they cleaned up. Those birds liked to land on the eaves above the gate and defecate here every day. Cleaning up the bird droppings on the yamen gate had become a chore for these yamen runners. Even when the bailiffs were cleaning up the bird droppings, some pigeons flew over and landed on the eaves above the door. The bailiffs below shouted twice, and the pigeons flew away. Without shouting, the pigeons flew back. Ha ha ha, it's not difficult. I have a way to solve it. Xia Pingan said directly when he heard the yamen runner's complaints. What method do you have? A yamen runner asked when he saw Xia Pingan's disheveled hair. He looked like a mad scholar and had a special temperament. Go get me a brush, ink, and ladder. I'll show you. The brush, ink, and ladder were simple. They were available in the yamen. The yamen runners also wanted to see Xia Pingan's ability. Out of curiosity, they really found the brush, ink, and ladder. Xia Pingan placed the ladder on the wall under the eaves next to the county yamen. He took the brush and ink and climbed up the ladder. On the snow-white wall under the eaves, his brush flew like it was flying. In the blink of an eye, he had drawn an eagle owl. The condor owl that Xia Pingan drew looked as if it was going to fly out of the wall. It was beyond vivid and lifelike. When the last stroke was drawn, it landed on the eyes of the eagle owl. The pigeons that were previously standing on the walls and eaves were all startled and flew away as if they were fleeing for their lives. The surrounding sky became clear. Xia Pingan came down from the ladder and laughed. He threw the brush and ink to the yamen runners and left. The yamen runners looked at the condor owl that was going to jump out of the wall and the birds that flew away in the blink of an eye. They were all shocked. Even the onlookers on the street were shocked. Why does that man look familiar? Right, that man is Li Guizhen, a painter. I haven't heard about him for many years. The county magistrate came out of the yamen when he heard the news. He looked up at the condor owl on the wall and then at the sky where there were no birds. He was stunned and hurriedly asked the yamen runners to chase Xia Pingan. Before Xia Pingan returned home and the yamen runners were still on the way, the world of the boundary pearl had been broken. Chapter 117. In the room, Xia Pingan slowly opened his eyes and looked at the time on his watch. From the moment he closed his eyes until now, it had only taken him more than 8 hours to complete the realm pearl. At this moment, it was still 7 o'clock in the evening of November 10th. After merging with Li Guizhen's realm bead, Xia Pingan had a silver relief in his secret mandala. The relief was the story of Li Guizhen's learning of painting. There were 3 colorful summoning positions on the relief, 1 bull, 1 tiger, and 1 owl. The perfect merging this time had increased Xia Pingan's divine power by 40 points, reaching 400 points. He was only 20 points away from reaching the Yuan realm. Xia Pingan seemed to be able to feel the restlessness in his body that was similar to the breaking of ice. Although Xia Pingan had left the world of the realm bead, his consciousness and state were still immersed in the previous enlightenment. For Xia Pingan, there was not much difference between reality and the realm bead. Xia Pingan spread out his legs and started punching in the room. He was like a dragon leaping and a tiger leaping in the room. It was as if he was in the realm pearl. His punches and kicks were like cannons that exploded in the room. In the next moment, Xia Pingan started running on the walls of the room like a ghost. His body was parallel to the ground. He was like a ferocious tiger running and leaping on a cliff. He was like a bird of prey fighting in the sky. When he punched and kicked at this moment, his punches and kicks were accompanied by the sound of air tearing. The air was torn apart by him like a piece of cloth. His punches and kicks were like a long whip that had been drawn out. The power transmitted to the tip of the whip was the strongest strike. The kung fu of these punches and kicks was no longer Xia Pingan's realm. It was Li Guizhen's realm after comprehending the Tao on the mountain. And the one who comprehended the Tao was actually Xia Pingan. At the end of the fight, Xia Pingan's strength was like a dragon and a tiger. The clothes on his body were directly shattered by the strength of his body, revealing the tattoo of the motionless Ming of Silla on Xia Pingan's back. Xia Pingan took out the black cobra whip from the space warehouse. With the whip in hand, Xia Pingan's body was covered with shadows of the whip. Sometimes it was like lightning breaking through the sky, sometimes it was like raging waves beating the shore, sometimes it was like a tiger pouncing out, sometimes it was like a goshawk soaring in the sky. It was unpredictable. The tip of the whip that would explode before was silent at this time, as if it had disappeared. In just a moment, the long whip disappeared. What appeared in Xia Pingan's hand was a long saber. For a moment, the saber light was like snow. As Xia Pingan chopped with the saber, there was a faint sound of a tiger's roar in the saber light. Although Xia Pingan's previous saber skills were sharp and fast, they were definitely not at this realm. If the current Xia Pingan fought against the Xia Pingan of yesterday with a saber, no matter if they used saber or whip, the Xia Pingan of yesterday would be killed in 3 moves by the current Xia Pingan. The realm of the two was completely different. 7 styles of the fierce tiger. Xia Pingan growled. The first style of the 7 styles of the fierce tiger, tiger descends the mountain. In an instant, the saber light was like a tiger, full of an indomitable spirit. The second style, tiger roars in the forest. When this style was used, the bright saber light surrounded Xia Pingan and danced around Xia Pingan. For a moment, the area within 10 meters of Xia Pingan was shrouded by the saber light. The third style, tiger grows wings. When this style was used, Xia Pingan's whole body seemed to be flying in the room. His speed suddenly increased by several times. He was as fast as lightning, like a meteor streaking across the sky. The fourth style, tiger eyes covetous. When this move was used, a dazzling saber shadow flew in all directions. However, amidst the confusion, there was a hint of hidden killing intent. It was contained but not released, and it was full of deterrence. The fifth style, hungry tiger strikes the eagle. This style was somewhat unusual. Generally, saber attacks were from top to bottom, but this style was from bottom to top, as if heaven and earth were reversed. The sixth style, dragon crouches and tiger crouches. This style was a counterattack. The saber light instantly converged to protect the whole body. The whole body was hidden in the saber light. The tiger crouches and the dragon coils, indestructible. The seventh style, help the tiger. This style was soft, from movement to stillness. The saber light was stagnant, as if it was pulling countless invisible vortexes, flying around the room. Except for Xia Pingan, no one could see the mystery of this style. The 7 styles of the fierce tiger was what Xia Pingan had comprehended in the mountains. What he had just used with the whip was actually the 7 styles of the fierce tiger. But the whip was different from the saber. The whip was more changeable. Before using the whip, Xia Pingan had also used the 7 styles of the fierce tiger with his bare hands. But when he used his fists, it was a different scene. Xia Pingan's movements were like the incarnation of a fierce tiger. The aura on his body was overbearing. Between the opening and closing of his fists and palms, he was more powerful in close combat. When one was enlightened, as long as one had a brush in hand, whether it was a tiger, a cow, or a bird, it was the same. What one was painting was the spirit, the heart, and the Tao. It was the same for martial arts. When one reached a certain realm, it was the same whether one had a weapon in hand, a whip or a saber. What one was painting was the spirit, the heart, and the Tao. After putting away the saber, Xia Pingan's body was steaming hot. His body and mind were very comfortable. Who would have thought that the Realm Pearl just now would not only allow Xia Pingan to obtain 3 summoning slots, but also allow Xia Pingan's painting skills to reach the realm of entering Tao. He had also made an unprecedented breakthrough in martial arts. Especially the latter, it directly allowed Xia Pingan's strength to reach a new level. Xia Pingan couldn't help but think of the real experience of returning to truth. In history, returning to truth later became a Taoist. Was it also when he gave up everything and entered the mountains to paint tigers that he attained enlightenment? Thinking of the fact that there was still one more realm pearl, Xia Pingan gathered his thoughts and continued to sit cross-legged in the room. He was ready to fuse with the realm pearl in one go. When he took out the realm pearl, there was some movement in the secret temple of the mandala. Xia Pingan looked over and saw that Song Jie had actually summoned 8 cows from the relief sculpture of returning to truth. It took 5 divine power to summon 1 cow. The 8 cows that had just been summoned were led away by the 8 farmer. The 40 points of divine power that had just been added were also consumed at once. Xia Pingan was speechless for a few seconds. However, when he thought that his divine power would be restored by half tomorrow and that those summoned cows might be of great use in the secret mandala, he was too lazy to care about it anymore. Xia Pingan took out the second realm pearl. A few divine words flashed on the second realm pearl, fire beacon teasing the feudal lords. According to the information that Xia Pingan had previously grasped, this realm pearl of fire beacon teasing the feudal lords seemed to allow the summoner to master an illusion. Thinking of the story of fire beacon teasing the feudal lords, Xia Pingan seemed to have understood something. Could it be that this time, he was going to be the King Yu of Zhou who loved beauties more than his country? A moment later, Xia Pingan's entire body was once again surrounded by the light cocoon of the realm pearl. Xia Pingan opened his eyes and saw that he was sitting in a magnificent hall. He was sitting on the main seat, and below the hall stood 2 rows of ministers. "Reporting to my king, the envoy of the Su state requests an audience." A servant hurried to the hall and reported loudly. Xia Pingan was sizing up the ministers in the hall and turned a deaf ear to the servant's words. The Su state, this ancient vassal state of Huaxia, was a little interesting. This vassal state was not well known in history and was the vassal state of the Xia dynasty's second son, Chu Lai. It lasted for more than 1,400 years, from the Xia dynasty to the Shang dynasty. It was quite impressive. However, the Su state was not very good to the King Yu of Zhou. Later on, the King Yu of Zhou rebelled against the Su state. "I won't see him." Xia Pingan waved his sleeves and said directly. The ministers in the hall all looked at each other and exchanged glances. A few of them looked worried, but no one spoke. Ever since Bao Si entered the palace, the king had become more and more unconcerned with court affairs. Every day, he indulged himself in sensual pleasures and became more and more absurd. Compared to other military affairs, it was not a big deal to not see a special envoy from the Su kingdom. "Where's Guo Shifu?" Xia Pingan suddenly asked. As soon as he finished his words, a fair-skinned, beardless minister walked out from among the ministers. "I'm here." That minister saluted while secretly sizing up Xia Pingan's expression. When his eyes met Xia Pingan's, he hurriedly lowered his head respectfully with a humble smile on his face. However, that glance just now made Guo Shifu shiver inexplicably. "This bastard is Guo Shifu?" Xia Pingan curled his lips and revealed a smile on his face. This time, he could finally satisfy his craving for killing treacherous ministers. "Did the palace guards take a step forward?" Xia Pingan asked again. Crash! All the guards in the hall stepped forward and saluted Xia Pingan. The ministers looked at Xia Pingan strangely, not knowing what Xia Pingan was going to do. "Last night I had a dream. In the dream, I met a golden-bodied immortal. The immortal said to me, 'Guo Shifu, you're a very loyal minister.'" Xia Pingan said to Guo Shifu with a pleasant expression. Guo Shifu was wild with joy at once. Thinking that his good luck was coming, he hurriedly said loudly, "I'm loyal to your majesty. Heaven can bear witness." "Good, good." Xia Pingan nodded. "I'm relieved to hear that. That deity also told me that there will be a great calamity in the future, and we need to choose a great loyal minister to burn as a sacrifice to the heavens. That deity said that you're the most suitable person. Today, you'll go and walk in the heavens." Guo Shifu was still smiling, but when he heard this, he was so scared that he almost wet himself. His expression changed greatly. Your Majesty, I'm loyal to your Majesty. So you're the most suitable person." Xia Pingan pointed at Guo Shifu and said to the palace guards, "Prepare the firewood. Light the fire outside the hall and send Minister Guo on his way. I'll watch with the other ministers." "Yes." A few sturdy guards came up and dragged Guo Shifu out of the hall without saying a word. Your Majesty, Guo Shifu was so scared that he wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. "If anyone wants to go to the heavens with Minister Guo, just say it." The more loyal ministers we send to the heavens, the more stable our great Zhou will be. Xia Pingan glanced at the ministers who wanted to stand out. Those ministers' faces changed, and they hurriedly lowered their heads, not daring to say another word. Only after 10 minutes, a high pile of firewood had been lit in the square outside the palace. The firewood was poured onto the top of the pile of firewood. With a miserable shriek, Guoshi's father was directly thrown into the pile of firewood and was sent to the sky. This realm bead was too easy for Xia Pingan. If he didn't play with it, it would be too boring to be King Yu of Zhou. Chapter 118. The Realm Pearl of the Fire Beacon. Toying with the feudal lords increased the upper limit of the divine power in the Xia Ping and secret mandala by 10 points. Finally, it reached 410 points. It was only 10 points away from the 420 points of the second realm. After the fusion of the Realm Pearl was completed, there was an additional black iron relief sculpture of the King Yu of Zhou playing with the feudal lords. The smoke in the relief sculpture was like a living creature. It rose from the beacon tower on Mount Li and soared into the sky. Looking at the army of feudal lords who were scared witless to come to the rescue of the King Yu of Zhou, King Yu of Zhou hugged Bao Si and laughed heartily. The smoke in the relief sculpture was the summoning position condensed to cast the illusion. When the relief sculpture appeared, Xia Pingan already had some additional content in his consciousness. It was about how to cast the illusion. The amount of divine power consumed by the summoner's illusion was not fixed. Instead, the amount of divine power consumed varied according to the different illusions that were cast. Moreover, this illusion was just like the smoke signal that played tricks on the Duke. It could not appear out of thin air without any reason. It could change into whatever it wanted and create whatever illusion it wanted. However, it had to have some realistic existence and realistic scenes as the foundation. The mystery of it was difficult to explain in a few words. Xia Pingan, who was in the room, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the time again. Only 10 minutes had passed. Thinking of the illusion technique that he had mastered, Xia Pingan pinched his fingers together and pointed to the ground. The light on the ground moved and the black dragon appeared. This black dragon was not the black dragon. It seemed to be alive, but it could not make a sound. It looked exactly the same as the black dragon. It wagged its tail and ran around Xia Pingan twice, but it did not make a sound. Xia Pingan reached out and touched it. The illusion of the black dragon disappeared at once. The illusion could deceive the eyes, but it could not deceive the ears, perception, and touch. It could not be used directly to fight or kill. However, when used at the right time, even if it could only deceive the eyes and vision, it should be very useful. Xia Pingan pondered for a while and smiled. He opened the door and walked out. The speed of his fusion with the Realm Pearl was already very amazing. He reckoned that if he could get another Realm Pearl, he would be able to steadily advance to the second realm. After entering the second realm, the difference between his physical strength and that of ordinary summoners would be completely widened. Mo Yanshao, Yen Duo, and the others, in terms of physical strength, were at or below the first realm. Of course, this was related to the difficulty of obtaining realm pearls in the past. But this time, the world was in chaos and monsters were wreaking havoc. Monsters could be killed, monsters everywhere. Summoners could be killed, monsters everywhere. That guy did not look. As soon as he walked out of the room, Xia Pingan saw Manzijin standing at the door of his room. He was standing guard for him. When the two of them were together, in addition to killing monsters together, Manzijin also unconsciously regarded himself as Xia Pingan's bodyguard. When Xia Pingan was resting, he would stand guard for Xia Pingan. "You're awake?" Xia Pingan asked. Manzijin smiled and scratched his head. "In the past, I would have been drunk for a long time. This time, I only slept for a few hours." It should be the effect of the body-strengthening pill. I feel that my tolerance for alcohol has increased by a lot. Haha, let's go. Let's go and move things, Xia Pingan said to Manzijin. Manzijin nodded. Just now, Xia Pingan took a look at his secret mandala. The flow of time in the secret mandala seemed to be different from that in the real world. The other space teleportation warehouses that the craftsman had built with the help of the farmer could now be used. They could be used to store bombs. Although the first space teleportation warehouse could still be used, a lot of things had been piled up inside. Medicinal pills and the equipment and food that Zhang Tai had put inside only took up a small part. At this moment, the most things piled up in that space teleportation warehouse were the demon rats, demon fire spiders, and demon liquid spiders. The pharmacist only used the body parts of those monsters, not all of them. The rest of those monsters were taken away by the craftsman in the secret mandala. The skins of demon rats and their claws and teeth were made into leather armors by the craftsman in the secret mandala. The hard shells and limbs of demon fire spiders were made into ferocious armors, spears, and sharp bone arrows. The craftsman in the secret mandala also made some extremely tough and strong ropes with the silk threads from the silk sacks of demon fire spiders and demon liquid spiders. They also extracted a very corrosive weird liquid from demon liquid spiders and a lot of super combustible substances like asphalt from demon fire spiders. Xia Pingan didn't know how to use these things at once. Therefore, he could only put them in the first space teleportation warehouse, which occupied the greater part of the space teleportation warehouse. Xia Pingan took a round in the ammunition warehouse and loaded various big weapons such as thermobaric bombs, fuel-air bombs, thermite incendiary bombs, and individual fuel-air bombs into his space teleportation warehouse as if they didn't cost him money. As a result, more than half of his newly built space teleportation warehouses were filled. Those drunk soldiers slept for a whole day and didn't wake up until the next morning, namely November 11th. It was the night of the full moon, the day that summoners looked forward to the most. Xia Pingan gifted each soldier here with 5 rune bullets, 10 body-shaping pills, and a lot of food which could last them for a year. When it was dark, Xia Pingan left this ammunition warehouse with Manzijin and returned to Xinchuan under the reluctance of those soldiers. Although those soldiers' physical strength couldn't match that of the elite soldiers of the special forces like Manzijin, according to the effect of body-strengthening pills, after taking 10 body-strengthening pills each, their physical strength and physique would be comparable to that of Manzijin a few days ago. They might even be slightly better than her. It was already dark outside the ammunition warehouse while a bright bloody moon was hanging in the sky. It was very smooth on the way back. The divine energy in the caisson well of the shrine of Xia Ping and secret mandala was rapidly condensing like stars. On the way back, Xia Pingan had already condensed and recovered more than 70 points of divine energy. On the way back, they encountered 2 demon fire spiders and 3 demon rats, which were also easily dealt with by Xia Pingan. After returning to the base of the Special Logistics Department of Xinchuan, Xia Pingan took out some fuel-air bombs and thermobaric bombs and started to modify them with Manzijin. They installed time-detonating switches on these big weapons. After working hard for a whole night, they finally finished modifying those big weapons. After one night of recovery, the divine energy in the Xia Ping and secret mandala increased by 205 points, plus the 135 points of divine energy in the mandala. On the morning of November 12th, the available divine energy in the Xia Ping and secret mandala had reached 340 points. Xia Pingan summoned 10 elite slave soldiers and 10 fireballs and put them in the secret mandala. After that, he took some Shenli Dan and primordial pills to replenish his divine energy. After making all kinds of preparations, Xia Pingan and Manzijin discussed the action plan. After that, they started to conserve their energy and wait for the night. Chapter 119. The night gradually deepened, and darkness once again shrouded the earth. The entire Xinchuan city was shrouded in a layer of blood-red moonlight. Yesterday was the 15th, and today was the 16th. The moon on the 15th was the 16th. Tonight, the visibility of Xinchuan city was higher than the previous night. On the streets of Xinchuan city, among the ruins of tanks, vehicles, and buildings, groups of magical fire spiders and magical rats could be seen wandering around from time to time. The huge magical fire spiders and the agile magical rats would raise their heads from time to time, looking at the blood-red moon in the sky with cold and bloody eyes. The entire city was deathly still, and the slightest movement would attract the attention of the surrounding magical creatures. On the contrary, the two permanent spatial rifts in Xinchuan city had been incomparably quiet since the last eruption, and hadn't spat anything out from them. At 11 o'clock in the evening, a layer of clouds drifted over, quietly covering the blood-red moonlight. The entire city was instantly shrouded in the shadow of a large layer of clouds. At this time, on the top floor of a ruined building in the south of Xinchuan city, Manzijan's figure emerged from the ruins, carrying a thermobaric explosive launcher. Manzijan swallowed his saliva, and used the launcher's scope to aim at a 2-story building more than 2 kilometers away. There were 2 magical fire spiders in the surroundings of that building, and he had just seen 3 magical rats enter that building. Now, Xia Pingan's order came from the earpiece of the communication device in his ear. Manzijan pulled the trigger, and the thermobaric explosive launcher flew toward that 2-story building with a bit of flame. Boom! The power of the thermobaric explosive launcher was too terrifying. Manzijan only saw the 2-story building more than 2 kilometers away flash with a red light, and a fierce flame suddenly razed that building to the ground. The magical rats inside the building might not even be left. Even a magical fire spider near the building was instantly torn to shreds by the thermobaric explosive launcher. Only the magical rat that was a little further away was thrown to the ground by the shockwave of the explosion, and was blown more than 10 meters away. After the thermobaric explosive launcher was fired, Manzijan had already thrown away the thermobaric explosive launcher, and at the same time pressed the detonation remote in his hand. Almost at the same time that the thermobaric explosive launcher's flame dissipated, outside Xinchuan city, in the west, east, and southeast, 3 fierce flames burst out, and the roar of the explosion shook the whole city. The whole city was alarmed, and those magical beasts that were close to the explosion crazily ran toward it. It was too exciting, and it had been a long time since there was such a big movement. Manzijan's adrenaline was crazily secreted. Seeing those magical beasts rushing toward the explosion, Manzijan hurriedly carried the launcher and retreated to a safe hiding place. His mission for tonight had been completed, and the rest was up to Xia Pingan. The restless magical spiders and magical rats in the city were alarmed by the explosion, and rushed toward the place of the explosion. Many magical beasts on the streets were suddenly emptied. Xia Pingan seized this opportunity, and while using his remote vision ability to observe the situation on the streets, he rushed toward those magical spiders' nests. Yes, the purpose of the explosion was to lure the tiger away from the mountain, and make those magical beasts in the city move, creating an opportunity for Xia Pingan to get close to those magical spiders' nests. Xia Pingan had been here once, so he was familiar with the way this time. The magical beasts along the way were mobilized. Xia Pingan used his remote vision to avoid those magical beasts, and ran in the city like flying. When he encountered magical beasts that he could not avoid, he would summon an elite slave soldier, and use the elite slave soldier to make a noise and attract those magical beasts from the streets to other places. But soon, Xia Pingan approached those magical spiders' nests, entered the building, and rushed toward the ventilation of the building. Magical rats, 4 magical rats appeared in front of Xia Pingan, and were wandering in the corridor of the building. Xia Pingan took out a long sword and rushed toward those magical rats as fast as lightning. Before those magical rats could react, the long sword had already cut off their heads. He swept across the corridor like a gust of wind, and used the fierce tiger descends the mountain to open a path with his long sword. The saber light was indomitable, and directly cut through the vital parts of those magical rats. Like a fierce tiger pouncing on a sheep, he easily killed those magical rats, and at the same time, put the corpses of those magical rats into the space warehouse. Xia Pingan was so fast that after killing those magical rats, they did not even have time to cry out. Soon, Xia Pingan rushed to the ventilation. He opened the cover of the ventilation and quickly drilled into it. Due to his previous experience, Xia Pingan's speed was even faster this time. In less than a few minutes, he had made his way through the ventilation pipe to the place he had been last time, the huge underground shelter filled with spider eggs. Everything was the same as it was several days ago. However, those magical spiders seemed to have been affected by the explosion outside as they had increased in number. Lying in the ventilation, Xia Pingan rapidly took out the things that he had prepared. At the ventilation of the ventilation, he put several bundles of tear gas grenades that had been set with time consecration. After that, he took out the fuel air explosive and thermobaric grenades from the space warehouse. As he retreated in the ventilation, he put those magical spiders into the ventilation duct one by one like stuffing sausages. The ventilation ducts of the underground shelter were abnormally sturdy. When they were designed, they had considered the various needs of the harsh war environment. The ducts were on the walls in sturdy iron frames, and could easily withstand the weight of the weapons that Xia Pingan took out from the dimensional warehouse, which easily weighed over a ton. The thickness of the ventilation duct was just right for the thermobaric grenades and fuel air explosive grenades to be placed inside. Xia Pingan put more than 10 thermobaric grenades, dozens of fuel air explosive grenades, and a pile of numerous thermite incendiary grenades into the ventilation duct as if they were free. The ventilation duct became a huge explosive barrel. After that, Xia Pingan quietly and quickly withdrew from the ventilation duct. After coming out of the building, Xia Pingan restored the ventilation duct to its original state. After that, he quickly ran towards the other two places. Like before, after consuming several elite slave soldiers, Xia Pingan lured away the monsters that he could not avoid along the way. Following the same pattern, he directly stuffed a pile of thermobaric grenades, fuel air explosive grenades and thermite incendiary grenades into the ventilation ducts of the other two underground shelters. It took Xia Pingan more than 3 hours to finish all this. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, he rapidly withdrew from the last underground shelter that was full of demon rats. The moment Xia Pingan withdrew from the city, the tear gas grenades that he had arranged in the 3 underground shelters were detonated at the same time. The tear gas grenades didn't have any explosive power. With a light bang, a large amount of smoke diffused into the underground shelters from the ventilation duct. Those huge spiders were very sensitive to the movements in the underground shelters. As soon as the smoke of the tear gas grenades entered the underground shelters, the huge spiders in the surroundings were alarmed. They thought that something had happened inside the underground shelters. Numerous huge spiders swarmed into the underground shelters. All the huge spiders in the nearby streets swarmed into the underground shelters. The situation in the other 2 shelters was the same. As soon as the smoke of the tear gas grenades filled the underground shelters, those demon rats and demon fire spiders all swarmed into the underground shelters. Xia Pingan quickly arrived at the rendezvous point outside the city where he and Manzijin had agreed to meet. The rendezvous point was on top of an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. It was more than 5,000 meters away from the nearest spider nest. It was even further away from the other 2 underground shelters. How is it? Manzijin saw that Xia Pingan had returned and let out a sigh of relief. It's all set up. The tear gas grenades have probably been detonated. Those monsters on the streets around the shelters are all rushing into the shelters. They're ready to watch a good show, Xia Pingan said as he and Manzijin lay on the roof and watched the movements in the distance. Xia Pingan had the ability to see from afar. He could see more clearly from the sky. The demonic fire spiders, demonic rats, and demonic liquid spiders on the streets around the sanctuaries were all restless and rushed towards the 3 underground sanctuaries. Looking down from the sky, the demonic creatures were densely packed, and it was unknown how many were rushing into the sanctuaries. Another 2 minutes passed. Xia Pingan and Manzijin both looked at the time on their watches. When the underground shelters were filled with monsters. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Xia Pingan looked at his watch and silently counted down in his heart. Rumble. The sound of a train passing through the tracks came from beneath their feet. The sound of the vibration came from underground and could be felt by the entire Xinchuan city. In the next second, the two of them felt the air around them begin to move. It seemed to be surging in the direction of the underground shelters. When the bombs exploded, a huge negative pressure appeared in the underground shelters. The locations of the 3 shelters instantly became the 3 negative pressure centers in the city. A few seconds later, dazzling flames gushed out from the shelters. The building was shaking, and all the glass within a few kilometers was shattered. Every air duct and underground entrance in the shelter was spewing fire. The road was torn apart, the building collapsed, and a dazzling mushroom cloud rose from the ground. The violent shockwave swept across half of the city center. The entire Xinchuan city was shaking as if it was sitting on a bumpy train. Those who didn't know would think that 3 volcanoes were erupting under Xinchuan city. The 3 dazzling lights and mushroom clouds were like 3 torches sticking out of the ground. At this moment, the entire night sky of Xinchuan city was lit up. Under the power of this explosion, let alone a few demon fire spiders, even a lump of steel would melt and explode into ashes. The 3 explosion points were the 3 most densely packed centers of monsters in the city. At this moment, who knew how many monsters had turned into ashes? Xia Pingan was startled by the power of the explosion. A moment later, Xia Pingan discovered that gunshots, explosions, and summoners' fireballs were heard in more than one place in Xinchuan city. Chapter 120. Damn it, the 87th Legion didn't attack. What's with that explosion? Didn't you say the Legion was attacking? How would I know? I thought it was the army. How could an ordinary person cause such a big commotion? And didn't you notice that the number of magical creatures on the streets has decreased by quite a bit? On a certain street in Xinchuan city, 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, were running for their lives on the ruined street. They were communicating with each other as they ran. More than 20 magic rats and 2 magic fire spiders were madly chasing after them. At this moment, the remaining magical creatures in Xinchuan city were about to go crazy. They were abnormally restless and violent. In those 3 loud explosions, who knew how many magical creatures were killed? However, one could clearly feel that the number and density of magical creatures in the city had decreased by a lot. A burning spider web flew over. The 2 summoners who were running for their lives hastily jumped away. That burning spider web instantly pierced through a small car parked on the side of the road. The small car immediately exploded. The dust and air wave covered the 2 summoners who were running for their lives. The slightly fat summoner casually threw out a fireball, igniting a magical rat that was charging towards them. It turned into ashes and then continued running. But they didn't run very far before the 2 summoners' faces instantly turned pale. Because in front of them, more than 10 magical rats and a magical liquid spider appeared. Now, with no way forward and no pursuers behind, the 2 were blocked in the middle of the street. What was worse was that there were open shops on both sides of the street. Even if the 2 could rush into the shops, they wouldn't be able to escape. They would die even faster. Am I, Feng Yidao, going to die in the mouths of these magical creatures today? I've worked so hard for so many years and finally became a summoner. I still don't have a girlfriend. The slightly thin summoner looked up at the sky and sighed, his eyes brimming with tears. What are you yelling for? Let's fight to the death with these magical creatures. Hurry up and use your trump cards. Maybe we can still charge out. The slightly fat summoner directly cursed. He felt around and took out a shotgun. He madly opened fire at the magical rats and magical liquid spiders blocking their way. The shotgun naturally couldn't kill the magical rats and magical liquid spiders. However, the flying bullets still caused the magical rats charging over to bleed all over. They squeaked loudly and slowed down the magical rats' movements. The thinner summoner also went all out. He waved his hand and summoned 5 battle soldiers. The 5 battle soldiers directly rushed towards the devil rats in front of them and started to fight them. The fatter summoner fired his gun and roared, "Prison circle!" The ground under the feet of the 2 magic liquid spiders started glowing yellow. The magic liquid spiders were instantly bound to the ground by the yellow light and could no longer charge forward. They could only spit out extremely corrosive sticky spider silk at the 2 summoners in a fit of rage. The 2 summoners hurriedly dodged the sticky spider silk. One of them threw himself to the ground. The fat summoner didn't care about his image and directly rolled away. The sticky spider silk didn't bind the 2 summoners. After falling to the ground was cut and corroded by the spider silk, leaving deep marks. The ones blocking the road in front were temporarily blocked, but the ones chasing from behind were about to arrive. Although the magic liquid spider imprisoned on the ground couldn't move for the time being, its magic liquid spider's lethality was terrifying. Moreover, the magic liquid spider was huge and blocked half of the path. If they wanted to rush over, they would have to do a face-to-face dance with the magic liquid spider. At such a close distance, it was almost impossible to dodge the magic liquid spider silk and its 2 pincers. Just as the 2 summoners were in a desperate situation, the agitated magic liquid spider suddenly stopped moving. A layer of white frost condensed on its body, and even the magic liquid spider silk that it was about to spit out froze. The next second, Xia Pingan's figure was like a big bird. He stepped on the magical liquid spider's back and flew out from behind. While he was in the air, the long saber in his hand flashed and chopped off the heads of the 2 magical rats pouncing on him. As soon as he landed, the saber flashed and beheaded several more magical rats. An expert. The 2 summoners, who were saved from death's door, were so excited that they almost cried. However, the pursuers were about to arrive. The 2 summoners hurriedly rushed towards Xia Pingan and shouted for help. Xia Pingan's figure passed by the 2 summoners and rushed towards the more than 20 magical rats and 2 magical fire spiders that were chasing them. After easily avoiding the 2 fiery spider silk, the 2 basic mini Xuanwu summoned by Xia Pingan flew out. As expected, the flames and life aura of the 2 magical fire spiders were instantly extinguished and frozen. Without the magical fire spiders, the remaining 20 magical rats were just food for Xia Pingan. With a tiger roaring in the mountain, Xia Pingan's saber flashed and chopped off the heads of the 5 magical rats that had just besieged him, sending them flying away. Under the siege of the magical rats, Xia Pingan was as agile as smoke. His attacks were fast and fierce. As long as a magical rat approached him, he would kill it with one slash. In the blink of an eye, half of the 20 magical rats were killed by Xia Pingan alone. The 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, had just run to the frozen magical liquid spider and wanted to escape when they heard the screams of the magical rats behind them. When they turned around, they were dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, the flames on the 2 magical fire spiders were extinguished. Like the magical liquid spider beside them, they were frozen on the ground, emitting cold air and covered with frost. More than half of the magical rats that were chasing them had been killed. Some magical rats had even turned around and prepared to escape. Strong. Too strong. These days, the two summoners had only seen people being chased by magical creatures everywhere, but they had never seen anyone who could chase these magical creatures everywhere. Moreover, the few demon rats that were running away didn't manage to escape either. Xia Pingon rushed up and killed them in the blink of an eye with a single slash. The battle was actually over in such a short time? 2 magical fire spiders, 1 magical liquid spider, and 20 to 30 magical rats were actually killed by a summoner right under their noses. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Originally, they wanted to escape, but at this time, they were too embarrassed to do so. When the two summoners saw Xia Pingon kill the last magical rat, he waved his hand and the corpse of the magical rat disappeared, which shocked them even more. They exchanged astonished looks with each other. Spatial equipment. This summoner actually has spatial equipment? Xia Pingon ignored the shocked looks of the two summoners and kept the corpses of the magical rats that he killed into the spatial warehouse. These magical rats were all elixirs. At this moment, the spatial warehouse in the Xia Ping and secret mandala had been divided into 5 by Xia Pingon, covering an area of more than 35,000 cubic meters. The 5 spatial warehouses were numbered by A, B, C, D, and E respectively. They were Warehouse A, Warehouse B, and Warehouse C. From today onwards, he would use the spatial warehouse more and more often, and it would be more and more difficult to hide this ability. Xia Pingon simply did not hide this ability, and openly displayed it. The ability to hide could indeed be used as a trump card, which could come in handy at certain critical moments, but more often, the power and ability displayed in the light of day would be more awe-inspiring and could bring more benefit. It was like some countries could manufacture several nuclear weapons, but they could only hide them. However, for several big countries in the Security Council, they could openly display the number of their nuclear arsenals without fear of others knowing. Furthermore, given the current situation between hiding his ability and directly obtaining the elixir materials that he needed the most, Xia Pingon would definitely choose the latter. If he could not even pass this hurdle, it would be meaningless to talk about the future. In front of the two summoners, Xia Pingon kept the corpses of the 2 magical fire spiders into the spatial warehouse. In the future, these magical creatures' corpses would be kept in Warehouse A. Seeing Xia Pingon keep the corpses of the huge magical fire spiders in an instant, the two summoners were shocked. How large was the spatial equipment needed to store them? Xia Pingon quickly came to the 2 dumbfounded pharmacists. Without saying anything, he directly put the magical liquid spider and the corpses of the several demon rats that he had killed into the spatial warehouse. Then, he pointed to the other demon rats' corpses on the ground and asked, "Do you want these demon rats' corpses?" The 2 summoners, one fat and one thin, exchanged glances with each other before shaking their heads together. They could not take these things away even if they wanted to, and they had no use for them. Xia Pingon waved his hand, and the other 6 demon rats' corpses on the ground were collected by Xia Pingon. Xia Pingon then took out a medicinal pill bottle. As soon as the bottle was opened, a strange fragrance drifted out. When the 2 pharmacists smelled this medicinal pill, they swallowed their saliva fiercely. They were too familiar with this smell. It was LV1 Shinli Dan. Seeing Xia Pingon swallow 6 Shinli Dan pills in one go like eating beans, the 2 summoners were dumbfounded. F***CK. Isn't he treating Shinli Dan as Shinli Dan? In front of the 2 people, Xia Pingon finished the medicinal pills and flaunted his wealth. Then, he waved his hand and threw 2 small glass bottles to the 2 people. There's a primordial spirit pill in each bottle. 1 primordial spirit pill can recover 5 points of divine energy. Although it's not much, it's better than nothing. Take it as an exchange for those demon rats' corpses. The 2 looked at the concoction bottles in their hands with strange expressions. Demon rats can be exchanged for medicinal pills? There's such a good thing. The fat pharmacist's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at the street behind Xia Pingan, phantom demon spirits. Xia Pingan suddenly turned around in a handsome manner, and the MR-98 instantly appeared in his hand. Bang! 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 3 phantom demon spirits that had just rushed out of the street were hit by the 3 rune bullets from more than 70 meters away. With a flash of fire, they burned and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. In the next second, gunshots were heard in the distance. Without saying a word, Xia Pingan's figure flashed, and he rushed into the distance, leaving the 2 summoners who were still in a daze here. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.